What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode. I appreciate everybody taking the time today to listen in. Today, I have a really good friend of mine. His name's Julian, who is going to be coming into the podcast to speak. We just had the episode, and it was an amazing episode. Julian is one of the top financial forecasters in the world, and I can't talk a lot about what he does, but what we did talk about today was his mindset, his journey, how he has written a book called Streaking to Win, which helps you to accomplish your goals and teaches you the missing link between what motivational speakers are trying to teach you and the actual actionable steps that you need to accomplish your goals and how you can reverse engineer that. Today, we really go through a wide breadth of topics. We talk about mindset. We talk about our personal journeys from when we were kids and how the things that we went through in childhood affected us in adulthood. And we really cover a wide breadth of topics. Andre is one of the most intelligent people I know. I've done book club with him for many years, and I think if you listen in today, you're going to get a lot of amazing nuggets, and we really dive deep into a lot of beautiful topics. Also, if you could do me a favor, please like, subscribe, or share this podcast. If you find that somebody would really love this podcast or enjoy it, or there's something beautiful for them to hear or to listen, then please go ahead and share that. So here's our sponsor. We have Total Bottle. This is a company that I am part owner in, and this bottle basically solves the problem of when you go camping, when you go traveling, when you go to a festival, or just throughout your everyday, you don't want to carry a bunch of stuff, but you still want to take care of the planet, and you don't want to cause any more damage through single-use plastics. In this bottle, we have a plate that wraps around the outside. We have a cup that unscrews off the bottom, and inside the bottom there is a foldable spork. Really, you just don't have to carry a bunch of things anymore. It solves it. It's a nice, sleek, sexy design and look, and also it keeps hot or cold beverages inside of the bottle itself. So you can go ahead and find that on totalbottle.com. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen in today. Let's get going with the podcast. Yeah, I'm excited to have you here today. Thanks for being here, my friend.
Oh, thank you. And I really appreciate that you waited till the last minute to read my book. That's always nice.
I try to read.
It's only been out for like 2 or 3 years, and
I have no good excuse for that one. I knew I was going to have you on my podcast at some point when we met, and I knew you had your book. And so for me, I think it's more important for me to like read something or really be fresh on the topic of what I'm going to discuss with the person right before I meet them. So
very good attorney answer.
It's a good answer, but it's also my reality, because I mean, you can read something years ago and you'll remember parts of it, but when it's fresh, I want to have like a deep, in-depth conversation. I just literally jammed through it, and so yeah, I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely cool to be on with you. As you've said, we've got to know each other really well. We've had a lot of great sidebar conversations. So just the ability to come here and talk, and hopefully we can get into some of the topics we've covered in the past.
Yeah, 100%. So I know you're in financial advising, and you've been doing this for a long time. As a financial advisor, I know you've worked with clients that have ranged from large to small clients, meaning like, I know, let's say tens of thousands of dollars to potentially clients that have had billions of dollars, correct? When you've worked with these different types of clients, what are like the biggest things that you see like in the differences from the big and the small ones? And what would you say are some of the biggest like qualities of the most successful clients that you work with that have really struck true with you?
Well, I think going into just human qualities, like that's what I think about is, human qualities in general is just, understanding, and hopefully I touch on some of these topics in my book, but, I think there's just a general understanding that people have the ability to be successful in anything that they do, but they have to have certain key characteristics. And if they don't have those characteristics, it's tough for them to be, successful. And I think a big part of it is understanding what your goal is. What are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to do? Because if everything is goal focused, then the activity and the decisions become easy.
Yeah.
If you don't have a goal, and if you don't have an end point in mind, or if you don't have something that you're shooting for, and you're just, kind of making it up from day to day, then you tend to be very reactionary, very emotional. But that's with anything. It could be in finance. It could be in your industry. It could be in sports. So I look at that, as that there's just a key thread of personality that runs through people that understand, what it takes to really be successful in any endeavor.
Gotcha. And so you've been in financial advising for a long time now. How did you get into that road? I know that from reading your book, you grew up in poverty, for lack of a better term. And your mom, I know she basically raised you on her own for a long time, and you guys didn't have a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So what ended up taking you down the road to wanting to work as a financial advisor?
It's life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's, I'm sure you've seen it. Have you seen Steve Jobs' commencement address at Stanford?
I think he's done several of them, so I've seen
Yeah.
on YouTube a couple of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's always it's fun. It's ironic to me because he talks about it where he said, I dropped out of college, so it's funny that they invite me to this stuff.
Yeah. I remember that.
But there's something that he said in there that really struck me, which was you can look at your life, and then you can look backwards and you can start connecting all the dots.
Yeah.
And you can see how you got to where you are.
Yeah.
But you can't connect the dots forward.
No.
Right. So at some point you just kind of have faith that they're going to connect. So you think about anybody's journey and how you end up where you end up. A lot of it is luck. It just is. I wish I could say I was, like one of those kids. It's like, I want to be an advisor and this is what I want to do, for the rest of my life. I've run into people like that. But it wasn't that way with me. It was just this meandering, road, this meandering trail. So my dad was an engineer. Math was a big part of what I did. So my childhood was interesting because I lived with my mom, single mom. And it was one of those, I thought it was cool when I was a kid. Like, I didn't understand we were poor. I'm like, oh, the government sends you these coupons. You can go get food. That's pretty awesome, right? I didn't, she never, like, made me think that, we were impoverished or poor or whatever the case is, because there was always just a lot of love in the house. And it's like, you got food on the table and what have you. So it's, and I saw that she made this huge transition from, when my dad left, it was, okay, she now has to take care of me, on her own. And so, through that, it's like just, kind of seeing her work hard. I think that was kind of the start of it was, parents work hard.
Yeah.
People work hard. I'm like, okay, so, and I don't think as a kid I understood that, but it's there, right? You see that. Okay, parents provide love. Okay, great. So check that box. So there's all these boxes that I think started getting checked. But then when I was about 12, 13, my dad came back into the picture.
Yeah.
And when you're a 12, 13-year-old, kid, I want to live with my dad. Like, I needed, and my mom was like, okay, that's, that makes sense. I think later she told me that it was kind of heartbreaking for her because that's, I was her only son. But she understood. She understood that it was something I kind of had to go through.
Yeah, as a male, I think it's super important to have a male masculine figure in your life. And I know that, from reading your book, for those that are listening, you had a little bit of a troubled childhood with your father. It sounded like your dad had a gambling problem, among other issues. And so he was not present for a lot of your childhood, and that you guys actually tried to take space from him because it was actually causing more harm for him to be in your life. But then it sounds like around 12, you started trying to reconnect with him because you wanted that positive male influence or a male influence at times, and tried to reintroduce him back into your life.
Yeah. And so, you go through that, and again, very interesting.
Yeah.
One thing I will say is that I, in college, I took a psychology course, and I'll kind of wrap around back to that, but I still remember that, there's certain things you remember because they hit you.
Yeah, for sure.
And, the professor was actually talking about, a lot of who you become is because of your childhood. But unfortunately, a lot of who you become is because of your childhood, right? Because you allow that to permeate through your life, and you tend to say, well, this is the way I am because I was raised this way.
Yeah.
And one of the things she said is, and I mean, this really hit me, is she said, whatever your upbringing was, whatever your parents did, you need to forgive them right now. And then, people are like, well, what if? She goes, it doesn't matter. She goes, because remember, your parents did the best they could.
And who said this to you?
Period. One of the professors.
One of the professors, yeah.
Yeah, in college. And it was like, that's it. They did the best they could. Even if they were horrible parents, it's not like they tried to be horrible parents, right? They did the best they could with how they were equipped to be parents.
100%.
Right? And even if they abandoned you, that was the best they could do. And so it's like, and it has nothing to do with you. So the best thing to do is forgive people in your life, because you don't want to harbor that. You want to be able to move forward in life, and you don't want excuses, right? You don't want to, I'm not doing well because of this person or that person or whatever the case is. So
yeah, I think
that was big.
I think taking that in consideration is like the assumption that you need to believe that they also are coming from a good place, right? Assuming that your parents actually want to do what's best.
Right.
If you can really take that premise and then believe that they're doing what they know how to do best, then yes, I think all parents are really trying to do what's best, right? Whether your parent was hitting you because that was what they were taught as a kid, whether your parent was like, I'm so broke, I need to give you up to a foster family because you staying with me is actually a worse option than me just giving you up to somebody else. Or maybe it's like, I want you to be the best possible version of yourself, and this is how I was taught, and my parents were very violent, and that's how they kept me in line, and they're just trying to do the best of what they know how to do.
Right.
But once you start to realize your parents, and this was a journey that I went on with Sacred Sons, that your parents are just the circumstances that they've been through, and they're trying to do the best that they were taught, it really makes things a lot easier, and you start to digest it a lot more. And also, I just don't think you really accept that until you're a little bit older, because as a kid, you can't even think that far ahead or really comprehend it.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that was, I think, a pivotal point, later on. But then, going back to kind of this road of how I got to where I was, my dad was a mathematician.
Yeah.
So math was very important. And I didn't really talk about this in the book, but it was, again, it's just an interesting childhood. That's just the word that I use. It doesn't mean anything except for what I take from it, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that he wanted me to be a mathematician. He wanted me to he wanted me to win the Math Olympiad, which was like some big global, math competition. And I think he wanted me to be like a math prodigy.
Yeah.
So I had to do 4 hours of math a day, every day.
Yeah.
7 days a week. And it was even on the weekends, like I wasn't allowed to go out and play until I did my math.
Yeah.
So if there were a bunch of kids that were meeting at the park or something to do, play football or whatever, and let's say that, oh yeah, we're going to meet up at 10. Well, guess what? I would wake up at 5, and I would wake up at 5 and do my 4 hours of math so that I could, show them that I did it. And then I would leave at 9 to go play. So you look at that, and at the time, as a kid, it was like torture, right? And I don't know what I think the motivation from my dad was he legitimately just wanted me to be good at math. Yeah. That's what he was trying to have me do. But as a consequence of that, I developed this insane work ethic, first of all. And then second of all, I realized, well, yes, if you want one thing, sometimes you have to do something else to get that thing. Like I wanted to go out and spend time with my friends, but I couldn't earn that right unless I did this 4 hours of math. My mom thought that my dad was insane, and it was like, why are you torturing him with this? And so again, one, you could look at it as torture, but two, you could look at it as, wow, it did instill this like crazy amount of just focus and discipline. Like I could sit there right now. I could sit for 8 hours straight and do something. Yeah. No problem. I have the ability to do it. So, for that, I'm really thankful. I mean, but, also maybe pretty good at math. Yeah. And so it's just the skill sets that I started developing. So, it's like I got, kind of this empathy from my mother, this nurturing, personality that she had. I got, discipline and focused from the things I had to go through with my dad.
Yeah, I want to comment on that before we get too much further. It's interesting. I remember listening to this quote recently, which was talking about when CIA or FBI agents are looking for someone, they want somebody with just the right amount of trauma, because that just the right amount of trauma or stress factors as a child really creates a certain personality that pushes you forward to the next levels, right? And so listening to you, for lack of a better term, it sounds like, your dad was a bit intense, and so it could have been like a little bit of childhood trauma in the sense that you have to do this, you can't do anything until you complete this task, and then you can hang out with your friends. When you were in that phase of your life, do you remember being afraid, or was it something that he threatened you? Would you get spanked if you didn't do it? Or was it more just your dad had an authority with you and you wanted to earn his respect and you're like, I'm going to get this done?
Yeah, it's more authority. And then I think that this for a long time, and I actually had to get over this, so it's interesting you bring it up, where it's this, I wanted to please my dad. Yeah. Right? Because he's my dad. And I wanted to please him. And he wasn't in my life. Now he's back in my life. And then it didn't think that, it was this, he abandoned us, but then he came back. So it's you really want to connect with your dad, right? You really want him to love you, to like you.
Yeah.
You don't want him to leave again, whatever the case
Yeah.
may be. So there was that emotion attached to it for sure. Like if I think back, it was wanting to please, wanting to please,
Yeah.
wanting to please.
Yeah.
Which
Do you know?
is, by the way, not healthy.
No, for sure. Do you know who Gabor Mate is? Gabor Mate. He's like a famous psychologist. He's amazing. I was just listening to a podcast of his the other day, and he talks about how a lot of us, when we're younger and we're not in a proper dynamic with our parents, where we're considered losers or we're not getting the love that we want, we are individuals that will develop a winning personality. And the truth of the matter is, it's not healthy because you're just trying to win people over so that they'll love you and they'll give you the care. And so it sounds like, because of your dad being gone for so long and being so disconnected, you were trying to win his love by earning his respect and doing the things that made him happy and then helped your relationship. So it sounds like that it could be a part of that too.
Oh yeah, well, certainly. And so it's again, you look at that as at the time. I think if I would have allowed myself to continue on with that type of personality, it would have been detrimental. But I know that at the time, that's why I was doing it.
Yeah.
But it was developing things in me that I didn't know I was developing.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because one of the things that I think is a good trait that I developed is that I have the ability to figure things out.
Yeah.
I have the ability to adapt and figure things out because he was having me do math that was well beyond my level. Like I was doing calculus when I was, 11 or 12, which, unless you're a savant,
That's awesome.
or unless you're a prodigy, you don't really conceptualize it. So I didn't really conceptualize what I was doing. Like I remember that I didn't really understand it, but I could still figure it out and
Yeah.
come to the right answer. So I was doing these proofs and I would come to him and say, here's the proof. And sometimes it would take me 2, 3, 4 hours to figure it out. I would figure it out and I would give it to him and then it was right. But I think he thought that I understood it,
Yeah.
but I didn't really understand it, but I understood how to get to the solution.
Yeah. You had a beautiful tenacity that made you not give up.
Yeah, and I didn't, and so I could link things together.
Yeah.
So again, at the time, I didn't realize that that's a skill set. It's the ability to figure things out, the ability to put things together, even if you don't understand them 100%, which I think helps you oftentimes kind of cut through the fog and see through the fog of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it was, it's just as you start thinking about it, like in general, I don't think about this stuff.
Yeah.
Right. We're talking now,
But
so
it's
I'm
good
thinking about
to
it.
contemplate on it.
But it's, it becomes part of you at some point.
For sure.
And you realize, like, even when I was writing the book, it's really cathartic because you're going through it and you can either go back into that space and go back into the emotions that you felt at that time and maybe start dwelling on those things.
Yeah.
Or you can say, oh, that's kind of cool. That's kind of how I got here. Like that was an interesting journey.
Yeah.
That's why I say it's interesting. I had an interesting childhood. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It was just interesting.
Yeah, but like anything, things are the adjectives that you put on it. If you said my childhood sucks and it was horrible and it was miserable, that's the reality you're going to have.
Which I used to say, by the way.
Yeah, and 100%. And so it's understanding that we each have a unique childhood and it's the circumstances that helped create you and bring you to where you are today. And even listening to you, for example, with your story with your dad, telling you have to do 4 hours of math before you can have any fun. For me, one thing that my dad used to do with me is whenever I had to give a speech or I had a project or I had any presentation, he would have me stand in front of the entire family. I would stand on this little thing in front of our fireplace, and he would have me say the presentation out loud in front of everyone, and he would count my ums and my likes and my ands, and he would have me repeat it until I didn't say any ands, likes, or ums. And it was such a annoying thing. I remember as a kid being like, why is he having me do this? But now when I stand in front of a crowd or a networking group or I give a presentation, those little basically ways and techniques that he taught me as a child have been immensely powerful for me as an adult, because even on my podcast, I find myself not falling to those words, and what I call them is like filler words a lot of the time. And it was a great skill that I didn't really see the benefit until I got to this point, and I'm reflecting on it in moments like this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they are filler words, and it's very difficult. When I was doing media, that was one of the first bits of coaching that I got.
Yeah.
Luckily, and again, going back to luck, right? How things are lucky. We did when I owned my firm. we started doing radio advertising, and it was you say that, no good, right? You have to actually spit out what you have to say, and you can't have any of these filler words. So you learn how to do it, and you learn how to be fine with silence, because when you, like right there, I was silent for what, a second? Not that big of a deal. In your mind, it seems like an eternity, and it seems like you're thinking of the next thing to say. So instead of just pausing for a second like that, which is not that big of a deal, people will, throw in the It's very difficult to get out of that habit. It's very difficult to get out of that habit.
Yeah.
But when you do, you just become a better speaker.
100%. And even like on the podcast, when we are having moments of silence, it's something that I find difficult for myself, but I guess for anybody that's listening, it's like this is a conversation that's happening live, but sometimes when I'm like listening to Andre, I'm having a live process and I'm trying to like download something that he's explaining to me, but also at the same time, I'm trying to pay attention to the fact of where are we going next? What are we going to talk about next? So typically in a conversation, there's not a bunch of cameras on you where you're not worried about where you're going next. If someone tells you something or teaches you something, you're able to take the moment to process it, to feel through it, to see how that's working in your body. But in a podcast, it's like I'm trying to stay engaged, trying to feel all the emotions, process through it, and then also not get lost at the same time. So it's a lot going on at once.
For you.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Right? It's your show.
Yeah.
So the pressure's on you.
Yeah.
I can sit here and just talk, and
Yeah.
you're the one that has to sit there and ruminate, what are we going to say next? How are
Yeah.
we going to keep this thing going?
Yeah, but I also appreciate that reflection too, because it's a good way of like understanding there's a dynamic between the host and the guest, and it's just understanding where people's minds are at that moment to guess see where they're at.
But do you think that after a while that you stop having to think that it just starts flowing to where are you always conscious of it? The entire podcast, are you always conscious of, I need to make sure this thing continues to flow?
It really depends on what we're talking about at that moment. Because, for example, I've been holding in my mind, just since you brought up the Steve Jobs quote, something that I've been wanting to say. So it just hasn't been able to jump back into the things that you've continued to say. So the question is, a lot of times when I'm talking to the guest, do I interrupt their energetic flow of something that's beautiful coming out of their mouths because I have something to say, or do I wait until the right moment to bring it up later? So this might just be a me personality thing where I'm chronologically paying attention to all the things we've been through. Right. And I want to make sure that I reflect and I discuss each part of it, because there's some amazing and beautiful parts, but also I don't want to cut you off in the middle of saying something because I feel that there's something beautiful coming through and I want to let you completely finish before I interject. So it's the balance of like keeping track of everything, making sure we're having a discussion about all the parts that I find to be important, that I think that you find to be important, and then at the same time staying on track to making sure that we're going in the direction that I want to bring out some of the beautiful things that you have to teach us today. So for me, it's a constant thing, and it might just be the way that my brain works. Maybe other people don't feel these stresses at all, and all they're doing is they're being present and they just interrupt when they feel like interrupting. But I guess maybe it's just a personality thing.
Yeah. Well, it's the way that you approach the art.
Yeah.
The art of conversation. But my hope would be that it would be, because again, I mentioned before, we've had so many conversations over the years, that it would feel just like that.
Yeah.
To where you don't feel any pressure to come up with any topic,
Yeah.
because we can just talk about anything.
Yeah, but even I guess when you bring that up, right? First of all, I love that you said the art of conversation. Even when we talk like one-on-one, I think that's just kind of how my brain works, right? Mm-hmm. So it might even be that whether I'm on a podcast or not on a podcast, that's just kind of how my thought process is. And maybe I'm just a little bit more of a high anxiety person than normal individuals, or than most of the planet. So maybe this is just how I'm just constantly processing things, and this is how I'm consistently communicating, and this is might just be how I am. And when you bring it up like that, it just feels that that's a truth for me. But it's not like it's a bad thing, right? It's not that I'm anxious. It's like I'm more excited, I guess is a better word about it, right? I get really excited about conversations. I get really excited about learning new things and hearing people's opinions. And something just as a lawyer, I've learned, like, you'll have 10 people tell about one everyone's story, but everybody has a different opinion. And so at a young age, I think that I just luckily learned that even though somebody's going to maybe teach you about the same exact thing that you know about, it's coming from a different perspective entirely, a different set of experiences. This person has lived a different life, and they're going to look at things, even if it's just a tiny bit of a difference, but it could change the meaning and it could change the outcome for that individual. So I like to always give people an opportunity to share and to explain and to see what emerges from that conversation.
Yeah, that's probably why you're good at what you do.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. And I do want to go back to the Steve Jobs things. Can you repeat the Steve Jobs quote one more time?
I already forgot what I said.
It was like the...
No,
that's funny.
No, it said that you can, when you look at your life, you can look backwards and you can connect the different dots that led you to where you are.
Yeah.
You can always connect the dots backwards, but you can't look forward and connect the dots.
So I've been reflecting on this recently because I was having a conversation with a friend, I forget who, but we were reflecting on all the worst things that have happened to us in our lives. The reason it ended up being a fun conversation is I always say they were the best, worst things that ever happened to me. And when I read the quote in your book, it just kind of put it together where I'm able to connect the dots backwards now to all the best things in my life. I want to say most of the time was something really bad where it changed the trajectory of my life and pointed me in a completely different direction. And at that moment, I was so angry. I'm so pissed off. I'm just frustrated. It's like, whatever it was, maybe I got in a fight with somebody. Maybe I'm dealing with almost losing my license for a malpractice case, or I'm dealing with some terrible situation where a friend betrayed me, right? Whatever it is, at that moment, it's like the lowest. I feel the most defeated and I feel crushed. But then now, being 37 years old, I have enough experience where I can start connecting dots backwards, and I can literally point to the exact moments where I realized I was so off pace and I was so out of alignment, and I needed this hard re-trajectory to put me back in the right direction. And then I connect the dots to, oh yeah, I met one of my best friends there. Oh my God, I met those group of people at this point. Oh, this is when I started taking things seriously and when I started doing this. And so being able to connect those dots has changed my life and just changed my perspective. Now they're the best, worst things that ever happened to me. Yeah.
And then you have faith that when you're going through something now, it's going to lead to something else.
100%.
You don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But it'll get there. I heard something, I guess a couple of weeks ago, that I'd never heard before. And so I love when I come across something that I haven't heard. And it was that people walk through a constant state of fog. And it's the fog of the unknown.
Yeah.
And then with that comes anxiety. And with that comes stress. And then once they get through whatever they're going through, they can look backwards and they can see how they got there. But what they can't see is the fog.
Yeah.
Right? So, a long way around, the fog's been lifted, right? But I think the issue with a lot of people is that they can't realize, oh, I've been through this before. It's just a different set of circumstances, a different challenge, a different issue, a different problem, but it's still the unknown.
Yeah.
Because everything we do in life is the unknown. Everything. It hasn't happened yet. It's the unknown. And so if you can realize, okay, no, I've gotten through it every time. And so I think in math, I think in statistics, it's like, okay, have I got through 100% of the tough situations I've ever been in? Yes.
Yeah.
I'm here.
You're here today.
Right? So that's the answer. I've gotten through 100% of them. So if I have that's like more than a Hall of Fame batting average. Right?
Yeah.
We've gotten through everything in life. So why wouldn't I get through this thing?
Yeah.
So it's what are the things that I need to do to get through this, knowing that I'm going to get through it. Yeah. My mom said something, early on that, my life that, she gave simple, cool advice. She gave some bad advice too, but she gave some really good advice.
Parents are doing their best.
I know. Exactly. But it was, sometimes, you get into these situations in life and you think, oh my gosh, how am I going to get out of this? She goes, it's like a traffic jam. You're in it and it's horrible. But you're going to get home.
Eventually. Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Is it 2 hours? Is it 3 hours? Is it 1 hour? But you will get home. You're not indefinitely caught in a traffic jam. It's not like that's it. You're on this freeway for the rest of your life. And so kind of that thought process in everything is, look, I don't know how long. I don't know when. but it's kind of irrelevant. It's like life goes, you know, you're going to have challenges, you're going to have good times, bad times. Sometimes you have good times and bad times at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? You have a lot of things that are going wrong in your life, a lot of things that are going great in your life.
Yeah.
But to get through every challenge, I think it's just simple. You realize, okay, the dots have always connected.
Yeah.
They always will connect. And once you have faith in that, then there is no stress in life.
Yeah.
Right? You get through these situations without stress.
Yeah.
Which is how you become, I think, a high performer.
Yeah. Deepak Chopra, in another podcast I was listening to, was talking about stress, and it's been something I've been like reflecting on. Like, listen to you, I know I'm going to get to where I want to go in life because I'm doing all the things that I need to do. I'm living in intention. I'm making sure that I'm acting on the things that are necessary, but I always want to squeeze timelines. And when you want it faster or it's slower, right, or however the speed you're trying to change it, that's you in resistance to life, and that's you causing stress because you're not just letting happen what is going to naturally happen on its own. And just like you pointed out, it's going to happen when it happens. And of course, I'm not saying to work harder or to push further and stuff like that, but sometimes you just have to understand that you've done everything you can. You've played the chess pieces, and now you have to see what's going to happen before you can make it to the next move. Because for me in my life, I always am trying to condense timelines because I want it, and I want it now.
Right.
And that's been a huge stressor that I've been dealing with lately.
And you can still have that attitude.
Yeah.
You know, I think you can still push for things quicker. You know, it's that question of, okay, you have a 5-year goal. Well, why can't you do it in 3?
Yeah.
Like, why can't you? Well, why can't you do it in 2?
Yeah.
You start thinking about it. Okay, well, ask yourself those questions. And you can ask yourself those questions and start compressing the time that it's going to take. But then it's, okay, at what sacrifice?
Yeah.
At what cost? So you say, okay, well, yes, I have this 5-year goal and I could technically do it in 2, but all these other things are not going to exist. Friends, out the window. Relationship, out the window. Spending time with your kids, out the window. Yeah. And so you start thinking, okay, well, you know what? It's not worth it for me. Maybe it's not worth it for me. Maybe 5 years is fine. And if it happens in 4 or 6, kind of who cares? Because it will happen. You will get there. But I don't want to sacrifice these other things.
Yeah.
And it goes back to, you know, what's important in your life and what are the things that you know, that you feel, you know, need to have attention in addition to what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
You know, which is why often, you know, they say when you're young and single, go for it. Because you have a lot of free time.
Yeah.
And you know, there are a lot of things that you don't have to pay attention to.
Yeah.
But when you're not, then, you know, obviously the achievement of your goals that will slow down.
Yeah.
Because you have all these other things.
Yeah.
Or you're going to have like 5 marriages, you know.
That's also fair too.
It's,
Yeah.
you know, you keep the important things important.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said, because everything in life is a choice, right? If you want to go faster in one area, you're going to go slower in another area. And once you start to see those levers being pulled, you begin to understand, you know, like pointing the dots backwards. It's like, no, I see why I'm exactly where I should be and where exactly I am, because I've made those choices and nobody else made those choices but me. Did I choose more friendship? Did I choose more travel? Did I choose business? What did I choose? And that shows me exactly where I am and why I should be here. And so, yeah, it's just sometimes, I guess, a hard pill to swallow when you want certain things, but at the same time, once you just take full acknowledgement and accept everything in your life, it makes life a lot easier to move forward.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then going back, I was thinking, because I'll answer your question eventually.
Eventually, but that's okay. We'll get there when we get there.
But it was, you know, again, this winding road. But again, all the dots, right? Again, they kept on connecting. You know, we've been kind of on this theme of dots, because, you know, once I got to the point in, you know, moving forward, getting into college, where I thought, ooh, I'm free. Like, I'm free to do what I want to do. It gave me the ability to start taking classes that I was interested in, doing things that I was interested in. I got into UC Irvine as an engineer, and I think it's because it's what my dad wanted me to do.
Yeah.
But I hated it. It was, you know, I hated it. It's not that I didn't like the discipline of engineering. It was interesting to me. It's just that what was missing was it was a very lonely job. It's very much you're sitting there, at the time it was in the library working on things, on your own. There weren't a lot of team projects.
Yeah.
It was just very much, you're isolated.
Yeah, I guess I don't know much about engineering.
Yeah. And so now it's funny because looking back and realizing my personality now, I could probably have done it. Because again, I will sit there alone in a room for hours and hours and hours to work on something. And come up with a deliverable. But at that time, it just didn't make sense for me. And I think it was the questioning of, okay, am I doing this for my dad? Again, seeking approval. Or am I doing this because it's something I really want? And I just realized, okay, I don't think I want it anymore. Which was like another big lesson, which was if you're going down one road and you think it's the wrong road, change roads. It's the, lost cost fallacy, where, I've invested so much in this that I can't stop now. Why not? Why can't you stop?
Yeah.
I've got a buddy of mine who was an engineer, coincidentally, and he owned his own company, and he was in his probably early to mid 30s and decided that he didn't want to do it anymore. So he sold his company and he went to law school and he became a corporate lawyer.
Nice.
We're talking, and he was married with like a kid at the time.
Yeah.
He just did it. And now he's thrilled that he did it. And it was brutal and he had to go to law school and go through the whole thing and start his practice. But it's, he's 50 now and he looks back and saying, wow, that was what I needed to do.
Yeah.
So
reading
it's ability to do that.
Yeah, reading one of Tim Ferriss's books, he has a whole chapter called The Art of Not Finishing. And it's simply like you were pointing out, it's like, what are you going to do? You're going to keep going down a road that makes you miserable, wasting more time and resources, and just because you've started going down this road? Or do you just cut it off, cut your losses, and start putting your time and energy into something that is going to be more beneficial, and you just change direction? So I'm a huge advocate of it. And I mean, it can even go with something as simple as, let's say you've been watching a TV show and there's 20 episodes and you're 15 in, but you're like, this sucks. I really don't need to finish the last 5 episodes just because I've gone down this road. Right. And even sometimes with a book, it's like, I've gotten everything I need from the book. I'm going to move on. I feel like I'm done with this book, and you move on to the next one, right? So there's definitely many ways that you can use that, and I'm glad that, you recognize for you it wasn't making sense. And even listening to you, though, I remember like my school experience, I didn't really like college very much, and I feel like I didn't really learn anything that was that applicable. Now, law school was a different story entirely. It was very applicable to my job, and I actually enjoyed it, but my poli-sci degree and a lot of the undergrad stuff, I think, one, I don't ever really like being told what to do, and I hated that it's like, you have to take these classes and you have to do this. The only classes I really ever enjoyed were my electives, like philosophy and art history. Those were the only 2 like classes I remember like being like, I'm choosing these. And so I really enjoyed them. And it's had great effect on me as an adult, where I love having philosophical conversations. Art history, I traveled the world and I went to all the top museums on the planet, and that's what struck a chord with me. And even now, like as an adult, I love learning, but when I was being forced to do it and told what I had to learn, it was not for me whatsoever.
Yeah, and I think, I'm guessing a lot of people have similar experiences.
Yeah.
Some people don't mind it. Some people love school. They love being told what to do. They go through it. But yeah, I think back to the classes that really impacted me. They were ones that I chose to take.
Yeah.
One of them was sociology of death.
What is that about?
I know. It's one of those that
name.
I've run into people that have taken that class, and it's just instant, like you're best pals with that person.
That's amazing.
Because you went through the same experience. It was the most intense class that I've ever taken. And I think part of it is because, like you're 19 years old, and all of a sudden you're facing, contemplating your own death. Mm-hmm. Like you will die.
Yeah, but you're usually not doing that until much later in life.
I know.
Or unless you face it on a daily basis with your job. Yeah.
Right. And so I think it was clearly a blessing, because it opens, again, that creates more freedom in your life, because it changes the way you think about life. I mean, it really does. It was a really impactful class. And I remember, how often do you remember the first day of class? The first day of class, we're all 18, 19, 20
Yeah.
years old. Everybody's chattering, talking, et cetera, et cetera. And this guy walks in, and his name was Professor McGrain. I still
Yeah.
remember that. And he walks in, and he stands in the front of the class, and he just starts staring at everyone. Doesn't say a word, says nothing. And then slowly people kind of stop talking. And then it went to a murmur. And then eventually it was like dead silence. But it took like 2 or 3 minutes. And it was kind of awkward, right? Because that's 3 minutes of, him staring was especially when you're 18, 19, that's an eternity.
Yeah.
And then finally, when it was 100% silence, he just says, "Okay, welcome to Sociology of Death." And he just went on like nothing had ever happened. But he was a really intense guy. So he went over the syllabus and the reading and what we're going to do and and you're going, oh my gosh, there's like 30 books and all the assignments. And it was a Tuesday, Thursday class. And at the end of class, he said, "Okay, well, that's it for the day, for today." He goes, "I'll see you all on Thursday." Well, at least most of you. And you think, wait, like someone could legitimately die between today and Thursday. Like that's a reality. And that was day one of that class. And the whole class was about really understanding how different cultures think about death, how you value your life. And the whole point of the class really was, I think, to get you to create value in your own life, like realize how valuable your life is. Like, are you just doing time here? Are you wasting your time? Like, what are you doing with your time? And what are you here to accomplish? And what are you, here to do? And that no decision you make is permanent, right? Yeah. The only permanent decision or the only permanent thing that happens to you is when you die.
Yeah.
Other than that, you have a duty, almost an obligation to yourself to live the best life.
Yeah.
And it just, that class hit me really hard.
Yeah.
And it really did. One of the things he did, which I thought was like, I don't have a watch on. It's not, and then when I wear watches, I don't set the time.
Yeah.
I don't
they're just for looks.
Yeah, they're just for looks.
Yeah.
But one of the, and it's really from this, is one of the assignments was you had to take a piece of paper and tape it onto your watch, and it just said the word now. That was it. And he, every time you look at it, you're like, oh, it's now. This is it. You are living your life at this moment. And two things is, one, it made you realize that it's always now.
Yeah.
So really focus on living your life in the present, like be present.
Yeah.
Right. But the other thing, which was, it makes you realize how much you nervously look at your watch.
Yeah.
And you're walking by people that you don't know, and you're like, oh, you want to avoid eye contact. It's interesting when we walk in crowds, or we walk at the airport, or we walk through the mall, or whatever the case is. You sometimes just don't want to make eye contact with people, or a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
So it got you through these types of habits that we all have as humans, and again, it's what I think you learn how to be a better human by contemplating all these things.
Yeah. Wow. What a fucking teacher.
Yeah, it was an intense class.
No,
like some of the
this guy sounds amazing.
He was great.
Yeah. I mean, listening to it makes me reflect on my art history teacher. And he was a very quirky guy. And we had this huge book. It was like this multiple 1,000-page book, because it had like all these photos in it, right? Because it's art history. And he was such a nerd, but he had gone to each one of the major places and taken his own professional photos with a nice camera. And he wouldn't show us what was in the book. He would show us what he knew, and he would show us his own photos and be able to teach us. And seeing his like deep appreciation for this art. And so it was like one of those, what is it called? APIB classes, the one that you're taking like college preparatory classes, right? And you basically take like this test so you can get points for college. Like, he taught us so much, I would have had to try to fail the test, because he was so passionate about what he was teaching us that it had such a deep impact on our lives. And even if you kind of paid attention, you still had enough knowledge, probably significantly more than any other teacher, because this was his true passion. I love your teacher when he put the now on the watch. I love when somebody asks, "Where is this person?" I'm like, they're wherever they are.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that they're not here, obviously, so they're wherever they are. But yeah, I would have loved to meet this teacher. I wonder if he's still alive today.
Yeah, I think about that.
Yeah, because he definitely had such a deep impact on you.
Oh yeah, it was great. And then so you start thinking about, okay, what do I really want in life? Like,
Yeah.
what do I really want to do? And I know that when I was a kid, and going back to my dad, we always had issues, and I went, and this is again another theme in my life, right? I went to the summer camp. It was during it was like in the mid '80s.
Yeah.
But we didn't have money, and so the owner of the camp basically bartered and said, okay, well, if you work, the convenience stand for X hours of the day, then that'll I won't pay you, but then you can come to the camp.
Yeah.
So I worked half the time. That was the second time I've done that, where I got to go to camp for free because I worked. But the owner of this camp was a psychologist, and I got to know him pretty well. And so he was our psychologist. He was our family counselor for as long as that lasted. Part of it was my dad never wanted to do the work because for whatever reason, it doesn't really matter. But it did help. It did help being able to talk to some third party and being able to try to mend a relationship and try to solve things, which was, I saw that as a very honorable profession, which is why I was a psychology undergrad. That's what I went from engineering to psychology, which might be crazy, but I realized a big part of it was that I found value in helping other people, right? And then that, because of that, it got me on this project. It was a savings and loan project, which seems kind of tangential to psychology, but it was a criminology project that one of the professors was doing. And I became a TA for him, just, teacher's assistant for him. And so when I was graduating, or it was in my senior year, he said, "Hey, what are you doing after this?" And I said, "Well," and I actually didn't think. My assumption was I was going to go get a PhD in psychology. And he said, "Why don't you come work on my project?" And it was okay because it was a government grant, so it paid for my graduate school. I'm like, "Okay, sign me up. I'll do that." Yeah. Somebody's going to pay for my graduate school, and I already started. I was a TA, so I understood the project, and that's ultimately how I got interested in finance, was because it was a project about the savings and loan crisis, in the original savings and loan crisis, and through it, we interviewed tons of people. I did the methodology section, and I did a lot of the organizational part of the book, and the people that were interviewed were mostly criminals because it was unregulated at that time. So you literally had savings and loans that were investing in Hell's Angels and drug running because you can make a big return on your money. It was crazy. And the stuff that they were doing was insane.
Wait, where would you make this investment, and how would it correlate?
No, the banks were doing it.
The banks were doing it.
They were just funding it because it was unregulated. So they would just, however they hid money, they basically would, set up some shell corporation, and then they would give it to them, and then that shell corporation funded the Hells Angels, and the Hells Angels sold a bunch of meth, and then it went back, and it was nuts with some of these.
Around what year was this?
It's just the late 80s that they were doing this.
Late 80s that they were doing this.
This is when the whole original savings and loan crisis occurred. So they were researching this, and it was all about white collar crime.
Got it. And were you guys so this was a psychology project. What were aspects of psychology were you researching about this?
Well, it got into, so it was actually the School of Social Ecology, that's where I went to graduate school. And it was, so technically it was criminology, which is where at some point I thought, I want to be an attorney. Right. So again, it's just how I got interested in different things. And I thought, this is great. I'm going to get a degree in criminology, and then I'm going to go into being an attorney. But through this project, what I started realizing was, one, these people in finance were really successful. They made a lot of money. they just wanted to make more. They just got greedy. And so they started committing fraud because, again, it was unregulated, which there's a little psychology in there, right? If you don't regulate people, then oftentimes, they'll do things unscrupulously to get more. So that was it really opened my eyes into one, that the finance profession, you can make a lot of money. And even if you just do things right. But the other is that, it's a lot of statistics and math, and I'm good at statistics and math. And then as things turned out, I was, you and I have talked about it and it's in the book, but I've been doing martial arts for years. And there was someone in my martial arts class that I got close with, and he dropped out of medical school to get into the investment industry. And he said, it's the best thing I ever did. He goes, it's so great. It's, it's really lucrative. And this is, and he told me all about it. And so I thought to myself, okay, well, I am, I'm almost done with my master's and maybe this is a career I can explore. And I thought, okay, well, I already have a backup plan. Even though I've realized now you don't need a backup plan. But at the time, I was like, well, I'm done. I have, I have a master's degree, so I can always teach. There's a lot of things I can always do.
Yeah. So
why not, again, take a risk, take a leap, and do something that all of a sudden I felt compelled to do. So went from, engineer because I thought I had to psychology because I was interested in it, to criminology, to attorney, to, maybe I should be in finance.
Yeah.
But that's over a span of 7 years. It wasn't like it happened overnight. But things just slowly evolve, and you start again looking at the different avenues. But a big part of it is just understanding the signs you see and taking that leap of faith, which I think you have to do in life. Like, you have to listen, and there's a fine line, right? There's a fine line between switching and switching and switching and switching and switching forever, because then you never amount to anything.
Yeah. And
between switching and honing in on something that's going to work for you. And I think that's what it was. It was a lot of adjustments. Like, I'm going in this direction. Well, now I think I'm going to go in this direction, and this makes sense. And it was years and years of doing it. But then the skill sets that I picked up along the way, they were all very important because they allowed me to do what I really ended up doing, really well. Because, I have the empathetic part from my mom. I have the mathematical background from my dad. I have the discipline in the work ethic. So I have all those things, but I do now get to work, in silence, crafting things for people that I know how to do, in finance. But then there's a deliverable and there's a person on the other side of it. And that person on the other side of it, I'm truly helping. Well, that's the psychologist, right? I mean, that's the great part of it. So I kind of get to do the best of everything. So I think it became just the best of all worlds. And then it's also allowed me to do so many other things. Like, if I wouldn't have taken this career path, I couldn't have done the media.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, maybe I could have in some other, I guess I don't want to shortchange myself. Maybe I could have done it in some.
And when you say the media, you mean like being on the news for the times that you've been on the news, and you're saying that you really enjoyed that and that was a lot of fun?
Oh yeah. It was great. And it was, people ask me if I miss it.
Yeah.
My wife thinks I miss it. She goes, I think she goes,
what was it like being on all that media?
It was very exciting. I mean, it's really exhilarating.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it, and it was very rewarding. And again, also part of it is it really made me have to hone my knowledge and understanding.
Yeah.
Because it started with, we did, the radio advertisement, and it was one of those, it was KFI, right? And it was AM radio, and it was a Friday kind of market weekly wrap up, and it was 1 minute.
Yeah.
So I still remember kind of the first one that I did, because it was you phone in. So you phone in and you give your market minutes. So it's all prepared. You wrote it up, but it came at 1:00 on Friday afternoon. So it was right after the market closed. So I think we had some kind of bell or something or whatever the case is. But the first one it was, whatever I said was, welcome to the, weekly market minute. These are the important things you need to know. These 4 things happened, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Have a great weekend, and whatever the close was. But then when we heard it back, it was bland. Like, it was really bland. Like, that's just so weird. So I thought, well, why is it? And we realized, because you're coming across the phone. So there's this technology that wasn't there yet. It's not like you have a really nice mic.
Yeah.
And you have all the right equipment to make it sound good. So the next time it was really over the top. Like, hey, welcome to the Market Minute. Like, it sounded really cheesy.
Yeah.
But when you heard it back, it sounded good. And you start realizing what media is about and what tools you're using and how you have to come across to make it impactful. And then had the opportunity to do Bloomberg.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like you've done radio, you've done Bloomberg. What other stations have you done?
Well, so Bloomberg was radio.
Yeah.
Because they needed guests. And it's one of, it's kind of cool because the way they do it is your interview is your first show. They basically, we had someone, our director of business development, he knew someone at Bloomberg or somehow got to know someone at Bloomberg, and they said, okay, well, great. We'll try him out. And it was basically a show where they're going to ask you about, what's going on in the market. There was no real script or agenda. And I remember for that first interview, I probably studied for like 30 hours, like no joke.
Yeah.
It was like a 3-minute interview, but I realized, I need to know everything about everything because I don't know what they're going to ask me. So it was what's going on macroeconomically, what's happening, in Europe, in China, I mean,
They didn't give you a precursor of questions and let you know?
No.
They should do that.
Oh, well, they didn't.
Yeah.
And so
Especially like, I feel like if I, like, these obviously aren't interviews, but if I was doing interviews, why wouldn't I want the person to be a little bit more prepared, especially if it could be on a wide topic?
They don't know what they're going to ask you.
Okay.
That's the issue, is because it's whatever happened that day.
Got it.
It's just, hey, this happened, talk about it. And but that taught me a lot.
Yeah.
Because it made me realize you have to be really prepared. Like, you really have to understand your craft.
Yeah, for sure.
You can't BS it, or they won't call you back.
For sure. Yeah, I guess, how did you get chosen to do this? Are you that much better than other people? Do you just have more of a personality where you like to talk? Like, how did it start out with people reaching out to you and being like, hey, we would like you to be on the news with us? Or was it just connections that you had?
Well, no, the Bloomberg was through a connection, but once you did it, if they don't like you, they won't invite you back.
Got it.
And they just kept on inviting me back.
They kept inviting you
back. They kept on inviting me. So I don't know how many interviews I did on Bloomberg, something like, I was 30 or 40 interviews. Kind of once a week, once every couple of weeks. It was funny because I haven't thought about this in a while, but now that we're talking about it, I was driving home from work, and the way Bloomberg works is, they do the interviews, but then later on they have little snippets. And so I'm driving home, and it was something about China. And so they were, talking about whatever was going on with China, and they said, and here's Andre Julian and his opinion. I'm like, oh wait, that's me. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It was the first time I'd actually heard it just driving around, because usually you do the interview and you get the recording, but then that's about it. You file it and move on with your life.
Did you get any legit notoriety from it?
It was really good PR. So it started being really good PR for the company, because that's, people, it created legitimacy.
Yeah.
Then what happened was Fox Business was just starting. And so they took a lot of talent from CNBC, and they were at that point. So CNBC was the big financial network. Well, Fox News came out with Fox Business News, and it was new. And so they needed people to interview. And so that's how that happened, was, so they were pulling people that had done radio or really anybody.
Yeah, they were poaching you.
There's just, if you can talk and you sound like you know what you're talking about, we'll take you. But it was the same thing. It was, radio's different than TV. And so when you get on TV, you have to, obviously you have to present yourself in a certain way.
Yeah.
But then the studio that I went to was in Irvine, and the producer of the studio, who I talked to him like 2 days ago. I still know him, still talk to him. He was very good. And he just took me aside and he said, look, he goes, I know this is the first time you've done this. He goes, I'm going to give you 3 pieces of advice.
Yeah.
1, don't say That was which is funny.
Yeah.
2, make sure that they don't bully you. And he goes, well, what I mean by that, he goes, don't be a people pleaser. He goes, you are who you are. Your opinion is what your opinion is. Don't change it, because they're asking you. They're inviting you on the show because they want to hear what you have to say. He goes, because what happens is too many people come in here and they start getting wishy-washy, and then there's the hosts and they're on national TV and they start flailing because it's, they'll say, well, is that really your opinion? Well, no, but no, that was a really, really good piece of advice. And then the other one was like, look, people want to hear what you have to say. So just give them advice, just like you'd be giving advice across the table. Don't think that there are millions of people watching. It's if you think that way, you're not going to do a good job. And that was it. That was kind of the 3 pieces of advice, and then you're on. And it's the same way. If you do a good job, they'll invite you back.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, are you allowed to be completely just opinionated, meaning you can just say your truth, or if you didn't say something that they didn't like, would they cut you?
No, I said you say whatever you want. And it's if they don't like what you say, they just want to invite you back.
Got it.
That's really what it comes down to.
But they kept inviting you back.
They kept inviting me back. And then I did CNBC, Fox Business. I did Bloomberg TV. Then I did, what was cool is I did technical analysis on Bloomberg, which is, analysis of the charts. And all the technical indicators, and then everything else is fundamental analysis, which, that's kind of a rare skill set. Most people do one or the other.
So obviously you know what you're talking about, and you obviously understand finances, and you understand how to analyze markets. I would say that there's probably some certain level of confidence in your skills and in your knowledge that you're willing to go on news stations and tell this to, all of America. Why do you think that you're better than everybody else? Not that you're better than everybody else, but that you have this certain level of skill where you can go and give advice on these stations, and that you're so confident behind it. Do you have a strategy that you use? Do you follow a mentor that taught you these things? Or do you think that based on just your analysis of numbers and how you look at things, you just have a better outlook than others?
It's everything combined, right? It's the whole background, the whole story, right? It's the, okay, you start off as a poor kid, and at some point you just want to be successful, right? One of the things that I always said when I was a kid was, people would ask me what I wanted to do when I grow up. I say, I don't know what I want to do, but I know I want to wear a suit. They're like, why do you want to wear a suit? Because people who wear suits are successful. That's all I knew. I knew I wanted to have a job where I wore a suit.
That's amazing.
Right? Which is, this 10-year-old kid.
You're not wrong.
Right. And so, again, so that was the vision. I didn't know what it was going to be. But if you look at the dots and look at everything that occurred throughout my life, it was the ability to be compassionate, the ability to truly care about people, the ability to want to be the best, right? You don't win a world championship in martial arts if you don't want to be the best. So it's this competitiveness, no, I want to be the best. I want to go out there. If I'm representing, if it's Andre Julian, if that name is out there, I want it to be associated with that guy's the best. That guy comes and he delivers. But it's not that you just show up and you are the best. You have to put the work in. You have to put the work. And so it's just that ability to grind, that ability to put the work in. I've never said I'm the best at anything, by the way. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm striving to be the best.
Yeah.
And if you strive to be the best, you say, okay, what do I need to do to be that person I want to be? You have to do the things that nobody else wants to do, right? What is that saying? It takes 20 years to be an overnight success.
Yeah. I mean, it's the truth though, right? It's like, you're not going to put yourself out there if you didn't believe that you were very good at your job and that you had confidence in your skills and your knowledge to share it with others. Yeah. Because you're putting in the work, you think you can do it, you believe you can do it, and then you're putting in the actual work to get it done.
Right.
And so it's 100% true. And yeah, I mean, it's just, it's not even that for me to say that I think you're the best either. It's just that you have this deep knowing within yourself that you have something to offer to others because you've put in the work to become who you need to be to share that.
Right. And a lot of people just aren't willing to do that.
Yeah.
Early on in my career, somebody actually said this, one of the advisors at the firm that I used to work at. And he said, man, he goes, at the end of the day, he goes, everybody's super tired. Their ties are kind of halfway done. Their hair's all disheveled. He goes, you look the same at the end of the day as at the beginning of the day. He goes, it's insane. And we're all under this pressure cooker. And I said, yeah, it's because I eat well, because I exercise, because I take care of myself, because I drink water throughout the day, right? There are all these things that you do to create that person.
Yeah.
You can't shortcut it. So that's really the answer. It's the 30 hours of work that I would put in to prepare for a 3-minute interview.
Yeah.
Now later it got less and less and less, but the point is it's always the work. I don't know if do you know who Liz Clayman is?
I've heard the name. I don't remember exactly what she does.
Liz Clayman show, and she's been, I think she retired. It's horrible that I don't know that. But she's Fox Business News. She had her own show for years and years and years. And, many thought she was one of the best. And I got to do just like this, right? She would have a show where you fly into New York, you go into the studio, and you're face to face with her. And throughout the show, she brings you in and she's asking you questions, and you just have to answer them right on the spot. You have a discussion and a conversation. And it's like, even now we're at a comfortable distance. The way that the setup was I swear, I was like a foot and a half from her. And it was almost an uncovered, like it was at too close of a distance. But, so you're in this high pressure situation. So that helps you become better, right? Better at what you do. But I asked her, because we were doing a segment, and then the segment's over, they go to commercial. And I just, I said, Liz, I go, look, I'm sure everybody tells you this. I said, but you're seriously one of the best. She said, oh, thank you very much. Very gracious. And I said, but, why? What's so different about you? She goes, I put in the work. She goes, most of these hosts don't put in the work. They show up and they're hosts. She goes, I understand this industry. She goes, I put 10 hours a day in every single day for a 1-hour show. She goes, I'm working 11, 12 hours a day. She goes, this is what I do. And again, that struck me. Like, okay, she makes it look so easy because of the work she puts in. And you can look at that. Michael Jordan, great example, right?
Yeah.
It's right there.
It's right there on the table.
You listen to interviews, and he had such a fear of losing that, he literally would say, look, I'm scared I'm going to forget how to play basketball. Like, I have nightmares that I just forgot. Like, I can't do it anymore. And it made him work.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant worked. These guys had natural talent, clearly, genetic freaks, clearly, but it's the work they put in.
Yeah.
And so that just hit me. It was always about the work, always about the work. So, the long answer to your question is look, I believe that there are very few people that are willing to grind the way that I'm willing to grind, and in everything that I do.
Yeah.
And it's just, you can just by my hobbies. I do jujitsu now.
Yeah.
I've been doing that for 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's not easy.
No.
And by the way, it never gets easier.
No.
And it's always a grind, and you're always uncomfortable. And you just have to learn how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It just doesn't change. Those things that you put yourself through allow you to be really good at other things. But I will tell you this in terms of the especially the media, which something my mom did, which again, going back, realizing, oh, that's good that she did this, but she did it on purpose, which is cool. To this day, I have no idea whether my dad did any of the stuff that he did on purpose, whether it was some grand plan, like, ooh, I'm going to make him really disciplined and good at math. I don't think so. But with my mom was a drama major, and she threw me on stage when I was a kid. So I did a lot of plays. And then when she was getting her drama degree, they would need kids often in the plays. And she'd pull me out of school Like I barely went to school when I was like that age because I would get pulled out for these plays. And the reason she did it is she didn't want me to have stage fright. She because she said that is something that most people have.
Yeah.
And to be able to speak publicly is one of, and people are petrified of it.
Petrified.
Petrified.
Yeah.
And I'm not
I'm not either.
at all.
I feel better with a microphone sometimes.
Yeah.
I just feel like everything kind of slows down. You're just like, okay, now I'm going to be very specific about my words, and kind of shuts out the outside. But yeah, a lot of people, the moment you put them in front of somebody else, they kind of shut down. I even had a recent ex-girlfriend that, she would just tell me a story. I'm like, oh, why don't you just tell it to our group of friends? And the moment she has to tell it to more than one person, you can see her kind of shutting down as an individual. But I think a lot of it does have to do with the way you're raised and the circumstances that you
Like
face.
your dad
Right?
and that
Yeah.
put you on
And
stage.
also if you ever got made fun of for speaking in front of others, right? Did you ever get picked on? Did a teacher tell you you're an idiot for saying something out loud? Did you get in trouble for asking a question, right? There could be so many different ways. But our parents doing these things for us, they have no idea the great benefits that it's had for us in our lives. And a lot of times too, like even after this conversation, I'll for sure call my dad and thank him for that, because it's something I've been trying to make a point of. When I realize something that my parents taught me or did for me, I want to thank them and tell them that, it paid multiples and dividends over my lifetime.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And those things do, the things that happen in your life.
Yeah. And
I think you have to, but I do think you have to be introspective about it.
Yeah.
And at some point, you really do have to be conscious of the lessons.
100%, because I want to have kids one day, and what are the lessons that I want to pass on to them, and what are the things that I want to teach them? What are the things that my dad and mom did for me that were actually extremely beneficial? And right, it's like the balance also between wanting to spoil my kid but not giving them a life that's too easy, because just the right amount of difficulties and struggles for them makes them stronger and makes them be able to accomplish more things, right? If it's all easy all the time, then they're not going to want to push themselves. And even when I was listening to you talk about Michael Jordan and talking about Kobe Bryant, it's something I've been reflecting on, is like, why do you do the things that you do, and why do you have this motivation? Are you pushed by fear, or are you pulled by love towards what you do, right? And like, I don't know a lot about Kobe's history, but what I imagine just for him, that he loves the game of basketball so much. And what it sounds like from what you just told me about Michael Jordan, because I don't know a lot about his backstory, is that he's pushed by fear. But both had great results, but also it just feels completely different in the body. And they were both able to have great success. But if I knew Kobe a little bit more, and let's say he's pulled by love, I'm guessing that his journey probably felt a lot better, and he enjoyed the process significantly more than Jordan, who's being pushed by fear every day and literally having nightmares about forgetting how to play basketball because he's so scared of losing and he's so just terrified all the time. So it's same end result, two of the greatest players of all time, but maybe their journeys were completely different, and one person loved it and one person was just stressed out the whole time.
Right. Oh, yeah. And you see that in a lot in athletics or backgrounds, and you have the background you have.
Yeah.
And you do the best that you can with it, right?
Yeah.
That's clearly important. But I look at, I've known a lot of professional fighters, and some of their backgrounds were horrible.
Yeah.
Like, why are you a fighter? Because my dad used to beat the crap out of me.
Yeah.
And I was abused and I was beaten, and I just didn't want to do that. I just didn't want to be a victim anymore. And so they got into MMA, and it was their way out, right? It was their way, and they eventually became either really good or champions or whatever the case is. And you go, wow, that's a pretty brutal background. It really is.
Yeah.
And you think, wow, they're choosing to get beat, whereas before they were, getting beat. They're kind of putting themselves in the same thing. But it's, people who haven't done it don't understand that really you're learning an art, right? You're learning how to defend yourself. You're learning how to fight. You're learning how to protect yourself. That's really what you're learning how to do. The MMA fights are just competition. Right, it's just to see, hey, am I better than this other guy? That's really what it ultimately comes down to.
Is my art more beautiful than theirs?
Yeah,
yeah.
But then you have other guys that are just athletes, right? They wrestle in college, NCAA champs. They're just phenomenal at what they do. They're disciplined. They're hardworking.
Yeah.
Great childhood. Nothing wrong with their parents. Parents loved them. Nobody beat them. They weren't picked on. They just fell into it because they loved it.
Yeah.
And so one is being driven by one thing, one is being driven by another, but they both end up maybe in the same place.
Yeah, for sure.
So the question is, what's the better journey?
Yeah, I mean,
don't know.
I can speak from my own experience. You know, I went to a Tony Robbins conference recently, Day with Destiny back in December, and we had to figure out something called our primary question. So everybody has a question that typically they ask themselves regularly that helps determine how a lot of the choices in their life are ever made and how they will move forward. So for me, the question is, what if I'm not good enough and they won't love me? And that stems from throughout my childhood feeling that no matter what I did and no matter how I did it, it was never good enough for my parents. And my mom, the way I felt with her is that she didn't love me because I wasn't perfect. And so, you know, if I didn't get an A plus, it was not good enough and I would get in trouble. And I don't need to get into the details, but long story short is when it wasn't actual perfection, it was not good enough. I was in trouble. I was being yelled at and I was getting disciplined for it. And so that was like the pushing of the fear is like, I can understand with the Michael Jordan because my entire life, probably until that Date with Destiny event, was pushing me by fear. And that fear of me not getting love from my friends, from my family, from my parents, from whoever it may be, I wanted to be loved so bad. And I literally can tell you that most of my life, like the only reason I wanted to be successful is so that other people will love me and other people will like me and they'll want to connect with me. And that was a strong force and it worked. And I put in the work and I have no problem putting in the work because that fear of not being loved and not being good enough and not being liked was so much worse than me doing the actual work. And so my levers were strong enough that I wanted to be loved and respected so much that it just pushed my ass to get things done. And I had no problem getting things done. But I do understand that, like, you know, this is something that, you know, it can be taught. And I definitely understand that from reading your book. But at the same time, the people that have it in them really have it in them. And it's typically due to the experiences that they face as a kid. And I've now been in this shift when I now figured out that pretty much everything I do in my life is so that I'm loved by other people. Now, if I can just learn to give that love for myself, I can start to pull myself forward with love instead of being pushed by fear. But in this transition, it's been really hard for me because I've been trying to be pulled by love and it just doesn't feel as strong as being pushed by this fear of not being good enough. And I'm trying to shift those gears. And I know part of it is like having goals big enough and also having like desires big enough to help a bunch of people and like wanting to really do the best I can for everyone around me. And as like, I call it like 3 levels of consciousness. As I shift from like the first level is like you do things for yourself and it's just to help you and you're trying to survive or you're trying to like accomplish your goals, maybe look cool to others, be validated by others. Then there's the second one. Now I want to do things so that I can provide for my close friends and family. I want to share it all with them and I want to experience it in that group. And then the third, you evolve to I want to actually help as many people as possible. I want to connect with as many people as possible. I want to be of service to all those around me. And as you evolve throughout that, I think that, you know, being pulled by love becomes a lot easier because your desires are for something other than just pleasing yourself and making yourself happy. And so I've been going through this shift as I've been shifting from the push from fear to the pull by love. And it's been a transition period and it's been hard at times because I'm like, well, I'm actually doing great in life. I have lots of friends and family. They love me. Why do I have to keep stressing myself out all the time?
You might not need to.
I might not need to.
Maybe it's the way you're wired.
Yeah.
You know, Jordan was wired one way, Kobe was wired another way. And it's not that you can't change your wiring, you can.
Yeah.
You know, that's a big part of if you look at neurobiology and understanding how to retrain your brain. So technically you can do it. But also, you know, I do believe, like, I don't know if do you know the story of the talents out of the Bible?
Not off the top of my head, no.
It's basically there are three servants, and they're each given some talents, and it was money, and it was according to their ability. That's like kind of a key part. They were given talents according to their ability, and they were told by the master, like, I'm leaving, and so what I want you to do is I want you to invest these talents. I want you to when I come back, I want to see more than, you know, what I left with. So it was basically giving them some money to invest. That's really what the story was. And talents, obviously, it's an important word. So he comes back from his journey, and the one servant that was given the most talents, he said, oh, you know, I took them and I purchased, you know, this group of pigs, and then then I ended up breeding them. I sold them, et cetera, et cetera. And then the other one did something else. Like they both made money, right? They invested it. They started some kind of business. They made money, and they had more than they were given. Well, then the third one, who was given the least, he said, "Well, I was scared, and I was nervous, and I didn't want to disappoint you, so I buried them. So here," and he gave them back. Like, "Here, I'm giving you what you gave me." And he said, "Throw this servant out amongst the wicked and the wretched." It wasn't just, "Hey, bad job."
Yeah.
It was like, "Throw this servant out amongst the wicked and the wretched, because he's not fit for the kingdom of God." And what it is, it's a parable, but it's, look, God gives you talents to you.
Yeah.
They're your talents, not my talents. They're your talents. And you need to do the best with them according to your ability. And God's given you that ability. So you have this ability that God's given you. Do the best with it.
Yeah.
If you're giving a little bit less, you're giving a little bit more, and that's that, look, I was talking about this with somebody the other day. It was the whole, somehow LeBron James came up, and it was, look, he has this genetic gift, right? There are very few people on earth that are that big, that fast, can jump that high, and he does work. He had a horrible jump shot. He worked on his jump shot, so there's a lot of work that he put in, but he is physically gifted, and the joke was, if basketball didn't exist, he'd probably be like bagging groceries, because he's not the sharpest guy. He's not that bright.
I couldn't comment. I don't know him.
Yeah, and again, you listen to interviews or whatever the case is. He seems like a nice guy, and whatever the case is. But the point is that he was given this insane amount of talent, and look what he's done with it. He's become a billionaire.
Yeah.
Good for him. That's amazing. He took the gifts that were given to him and he did something with it. And there's probably a ton of people that had similar gifts that didn't. They want to get high with their buddies. They wanted to hang out. They wanted to, they were lazy. They didn't put in the work, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
Maybe some of them didn't get the opportunity. I get it. But the point is, he did the most with what he was given.
Yeah.
So then I look at it as, okay, what have I been given? What is my skill set? My vertical, if it's greater than 20, I'd be shocked. Right? When I was a kid, I played basketball when I was younger in college, and I would just try to get my vertical up, I was vertically challenged, right? That's it. You jump as high as you can jump. Your fast twitch muscles are your fast twitch muscles. So I realized I wasn't going to be a pro basketball player, right? And so you start thinking, okay, what are your talents? What have you been given? And it's just that parable has always stuck with me. It's like, look, you've been given a gift. Do the most you can with that gift, whatever that gift is. And so if your gift is, working really hard, and what motivates you is that you have kind of this need to be liked, awesome. Use it. It's a tool.
Yeah.
If it helps you, great. Now, what are the consequences behind that? Right? Where are you suffering in your life because of that?
Yeah.
Are you suffering in your life because of it? So if you think, well, I am suffering in my life because I really get down on myself. I put a good face on, I dress sharp, but I'm kind of depressed, right? And when I'm, at home at night, I just have to deal with facing myself. I don't like who I see. Well, if those are the consequences and that's what you're going through, well, then maybe you should kind of change some things, right? But if it's not, if it's just this need to be, liked that's driving you and it's causing you to work so hard, and it gives you this awesome personality, and you're very approachable, you're easy to talk to, you always have a smile on your face, you always are willing to go the extra mile to put in work that helps other people feel good about themselves, that's an amazing quality.
Yeah, and there's some beauty that comes from it for sure. Yeah, I guess just like speaking from my own story, it's like there are times when it's like I see one side of that coin. And then there are times where it's like the depressing of not feeling good enough and you're not feeling valued. But it's always kind of been like a pull of a back and forth throughout my whole life. And now in the last couple of years, it's definitely have shifted significantly more to understanding that all of the stuff that I went through as a kid helped me to become the person I am today. And that's where all my best qualities are, right? So I think a lot of times what you go through as a child, it can be a weakness, or it can turn into a superpower if you allow it to turn into a superpower. And so most of those qualities did turn into my greatest superpowers, and I've taken hold of them, and I love them, and I show them, and I agree with you. And it's been a part of the journey into accepting it and just allowing it to be a part of my life and not allowing it to put me down in any way.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been beautiful.
Man,
Cool.
that's good. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you, but again, we're all on our own journey, right?
Yeah,
So if
100%.
the transition is important to you, and
Yeah.
again, you realize, this doesn't work for me as much.
Yeah.
Like I remember one of my martial arts instructors, he's like, you're so angry, and you operate under anger. And so, the goal is to not, to be able to perform without being angry. I'm like, okay, that's the goal. That's the goal. But it made me worse, because then all of a sudden it was almost like I would accept loss, or I was always that guy that like, you could never tap me out no matter what. But then after a while it was like, well, oh no, but it's okay. What is that fine line?
Yeah.
Right? Between, well, no, anger drives me and it fuels me and it helps me. But you don't want to walk around being angry all the time.
No, not
That's
at all.
bad. But can you use it as a tool?
Can you tap into it without it
into it.
overtaking you?
Right. And it's kind of that theory of, oh, well, wait a minute. If you can tap into something, call it anger or call it whatever you want, where, yes, if you walk around angry all the time, that's not healthy. But sometimes maybe you need to be angry.
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe you need to be pissed off, right? So then you might need to use it as a source of fuel. And it's learning, okay, when do I turn it on? When do I turn it off? And do I have that switch? And can I use that switch when I need it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's helpful. So it's not eliminating all these personality or these parts of your personality that are there. It's knowing when to use them.
Yeah, they're all parts of the utility belt, and we all have multiple parts of our personalities. It's just being able to access them when you need to use them. And so I know for you, a big part of your journey has been martial arts. And did you believe that you got into martial arts just because of the fact that you were bullied as a kid, or what really drove you towards martial arts, and how did you end up as, you started this book with a story about how you were fighting in an Israeli championship, and how did that journey start for you, and how did it end up there?
It was the bullying, and it was okay, at some point you want to be able to defend yourself. That's
Yeah.
really what it comes down
I mean,
to.
it's hard for me to imagine you getting bullied. You're like 6 foot something tall, like kids just like pick
I
on
wasn't
you.
born 6 foot.
Yeah, that's fair. So when did you get tall, I guess?
After high school.
After high school, got it. Okay, so most of the bullying, obviously, well, for me at least, when I was bullied, it was when I was in high school and younger. So that makes
Like
sense. Okay.
junior high,
Yeah.
and it's, you realize, you look back in the social dynamics of that ecosystem, junior high, high school.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to prove themselves, and it's it's easy to be victimized if you're weak, because that's who bullies are going to pick on.
Yeah.
Right? A bully isn't going to pick on someone that isn't weak. And so I remember it was this kid who transferred in from somewhere, and he was this. I think he was from China, actually, and it was 7th grade, and we were standing in line to get water for like at PE or whatever the case is. And, it was the old days. You stand there and there's a water fountain. You're standing in line waiting, and
Yeah.
everybody's waiting in line, and he's like maybe almost next in line. And he's just like this quiet kid or whatever the case is. And one of the bullies, kind of one of the school bullies, just walks up and he's like, "Oh, guess like it's my spot in line now." And he like pushed him out of the way and cut in front of him. And then the Chinese kid really quickly looked at him and he punched him in the throat like that, like bam. And the guy's like, and everybody's like, what the heck just happened? And then he's like, this is my spot. This is my spot. And then the guy like kind of like walks away, and you're like, whoa, like that just happened. And I realized, okay, this kid knows something, right? This kid is a martial artist. Like he knows karate or kung fu. And
what a badass at that age.
It's awesome. It's an instant, like bam.
Freaking awesome.
I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And so that's when it kind of started like, oh, if I learn how to do this, then I'm not going to get picked on. I'm not going to be victimized, and I'm not going to be bullied. So it was one of those, I really want to do it. And it was always with my dad. Like, my dad was hilarious. I mean, sports was a waste of time to him. You know, it just really was. It was math, and, you know, it was academics.
As a man, you would think he would be a little bit into the sports.
Right.
But my dad was the same way. He was just all about academics. He didn't really want me, or he didn't really care too much about the sports. He understood the social aspect of it, but he just wanted me to be very good at the academic side.
But what I don't think that, you know, parents like that understand is that you need to be a well-rounded human.
For sure.
And you need to have confidence.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you do.
For sure.
You need to walk around with confidence.
Yeah.
You need to walk around, you know, without having that nervousness or fear or anxiety about, am I good enough, or is somebody, you know, going to hurt me, or whatever the case is. You know, as you move through life, confidence is really critical.
Yeah, and that comes through like lots of interactions with other individuals.
Sports gives you confidence. It doesn't even have to be martial arts, but sports gives you confidence.
Yeah.
And it helps you learn how to interact in a team environment. It helps you understand how to not be selfish.
Yeah.
It helps you understand that, you know, sometimes you shoot the ball, sometimes you pass the ball. So there are a lot of things you learn from sports that help you in life. You can, you know, learn how to work well with others.
Yeah. And really understanding talents, like even just listening to you, I'm like thinking about it's like also a recognition of, no, this person is better than me. And at this moment, it is not the best decision for me to keep the ball in my hands or to keep the ball at my feet. It's actually going to have a better opportunity for the entire team to win by allowing the player who is actually better than me to score the goal if I'm not capable of doing so. So really, not to like say that we're like putting each other in different levels, but the bottom line is that there's always going to be somebody better than you. There's always going to be somebody lower than you, and knowing where you are allows you to use your skills in the best way possible, whether that is to lead or if it is in support of the greatest person. And one of my friends recently, we were reflecting at Coachella, he kept saying this quote. He's like, he loves the fact that he's not a lead player in anything. He loves being the support. But he said that when you help somebody climb the mountain, you realize when you've reached the top, you've reached the top too. And it's one of those things that recognizing like you don't always have to lead to win. You can still win by supporting and by creating the best team possible. And sometimes by supporting, your team is going to win above all other teams, and you're still going to be at the top. So yeah,
it's like the sixth man award.
It's a sixth-man award.
Sixth-man award. It's like that's, you know, that's a thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I think a big part of what you just said though also is you need to decide what you want to drive towards.
Yeah.
Right? Like what I see today happening, which I think is a travesty, and hopefully it's changing. But I know that in Little League for a while, they didn't keep score, and everybody got to play.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh no, nobody's better than anybody else. Everybody has equal time. There's no score. Well, then what are you playing for?
Yeah.
Like you're playing just to play. Well, then go play in the park.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of things you can go play Frisbee. Like there's a lot of things you can play just to play. But if you're playing something that's a competitive sport that has a score and people are better than other people, probably makes sense that the best people get to play, the best people in a position get to play that position. But it's this, you know, everybody has to be included.
Yeah.
Okay, great. But when I was a kid, it was, you're a bench warmer and you have two choices. One, accept that you're a bench warmer.
Or get better. Yeah.
And so that drove me to practice and practice and practice. Like when I played baseball as a kid, I would practice and practice and practice and practice until I got to the point where, you know, I started off as a bench warmer. I sucked. I played left field when I got to play. And it got to the point where eventually I became the second baseman.
Yeah.
But that took like 4 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
It was
a
grind, but I earned it.
Yeah, and that's like Jordan Peterson talks about competition a lot, and I think like competition is not about like being better than the other person is you guys are rising, like you're raising your skills together. You're pushing the other person to become a better version of themselves. And that's the whole point of competition. It's not to be, defeating the other person or to put them down or make them worse, but you only get better by pushing each other to become better. And without competition, having these marks to measure yourself and to see if you are skilled, then how are you going to know how to improve and how to get better if you're never measuring it? You have to measure so you can see where you came from and where you're going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to measure things. I mean, that's if something's important and it can be measured, you should probably measure it.
Yeah.
It's pretty helpful.
Yeah, I always not to put any of my employees on blast or anything, but I'm gonna a bit. So when you're trying to
do it by name.
Yeah, no, not by name, but when people are trying to lose weight, some of my employees, they want to lose weight, and I'm like, okay, do you measure your weight every day? And they're like, no, I measure it once every 2 weeks. I'm like, well, that's the thing, is you can't measure something properly if you're not keeping track of it every single day. I'm like, if you're actually trying to lose weight, you should be on the scale every day and keeping an eye on it. And I know in your book you talk about when it comes to streaking is using different types of measurements, but I'm just giving a specific example where it's if you don't measure something on a daily basis or regularly, how are you going to really know how you're doing? Are you just hoping? Are you praying? Are you wishing? And it's not a proper way to go about life. I think you should keep track as much as you can.
Or I'll push back on you a little bit with the losing weight thing, and it's that I think that with that specifically, or with a lot of things specifically, is I think that you have to keep track of the actions, right? I talk about that in the book. I don't know if you've got to that section.
I did get to that section.
The weight section.
Yeah.
Where it's look, if you step on the scale every day, it's kind of irrelevant. I even say, I don't even step on the scale. It's not relevant because it's what do you need to do every day to lose weight? So it's if you do these things. So what you measure is I exercise for half an hour. Measure that, right? I ate 1,800 calories. Measure that. I ate, 180 grams of protein. Measure that. Those are the things, because if you don't measure those things, you can step on the scale every day and it's not going to change.
Yeah.
Right. So if you want to step on the scale every day, go ahead. But I think it's measuring the activities that will get you to lose weight. And again, it's going back to it. Nobody wants to do the activities.
Got it. So what you're saying, it's not so much measuring the end goal or the big picture, but it's the little things that get you to the big picture is going to get you a bigger frame of or a better frame of reference.
Right. Because look, if you wanted to lose weight, you say, oh, I want to lose 15 pounds. That's kind of random. Why 15? Why not 17? Why not? Unless you got your body fat measured and said, okay, my body fat is 25%. I want to be 10%. 15% of my current weight is, X. So I want to lose that much weight. Okay, then there's a reason you want to lose that much weight. And so I get it. A lot of people don't do that. They're like, oh, I want to lose 15 pounds. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
Right? Why? What happens if you gained 5 pounds of muscle and lost 15 pounds of fat? Then technically you only lost 10 pounds. That's probably better than losing 15 pounds of fat and gaining no muscle. So, one, it's defining the goal. What is it? What is it you want to do? It could be even something as simple as, I don't want to lose any weight. I just want to convert. I want to lose fat and gain muscle. So I want to be the same weight. But, so again, it's defining that goal. And then it's what are the activities that you need to do to reach that goal. So I would say you focus on those activities. Because I'm telling you, if you say, okay, my goal is to gain 5 pounds of muscle and lose, 15 pounds of fat over the next 6 months. Let's say that's your goal. One, is that realistic? I don't know. It's tough to gain muscle, but let's just say that you set that goal. What do you need to do? I need to do weight training 5 days a week. This is the type of weight training I need to do. I need to eat this many calories. This is what I need to do. I need to, walk, half an hour a day. Whatever it is, whatever routine you set up. If you never touch the scale, and you did those things every single day, day in, day out, without fail, I'm going to guess that 6 months from now, you're going to be way better than you were when you started.
Yeah, you're going to be able to measure it, and you're going to be in a better position. Even if it's not that you've lost the weight, but you're going to feel fantastic, and you're going to still achieve the goal that you're looking for, which is I'm guessing to feel better at that moment.
And I think it's in the action because you look at, we do have, again, certain talents, certain body types, right? One of my friends he played pro football, and he looks like he used to play pro football. And he's one of those guys that just muscular, is really strong, can bench a lot, has a lot of fast twitch muscles. And he has pretty much the same workout routine that I do. Okay, I don't look like that guy. I'm in shape, but I don't look like that guy.
Yeah.
Well, why is it? Different genetics. So my goal could be to look like that guy. I'm never going to reach that goal. Now I could take a bunch of steroids.
Yeah.
If I took a bunch of steroids, I could reach that goal, right? If I took a bunch of growth hormone, I could reach that goal. So then it's like, okay, is my goal to look like that guy? If it is, am I willing to do these other things to get there? For some people, they are.
Yeah.
Right? They're willing to, I'll take steroids. I don't care. I'll take some steroids. I'll take some growth hormone. I want to look, that's important to me. I want to look like, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And if that's your thing and you're fine with the consequences and the side effects and you've looked at it, okay, hey, it's your life, right?
Yeah.
Do whatever the heck you want. But at some point, like at least for me, I accept, okay, these are the genetics that I've been given, but I'm still going to do the work.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the work of a professional athlete. I'm going to work out like a professional athlete. I may never look like a professional athlete, but I'm going to do the work. And the work to me means that I'm going to be better than I would have been had I not done the work.
Yeah. And I hear you. And I think really the premise really comes down to is you got to figure out what your end goal is, right? Because if you figure out your end goal, you can essentially reverse engineer and figure out the actions that need to be taken to get to that end goal. And what you think might be the steps that actually need to be taken is actually completely different. And you need to figure out what the proper measuring tools and what the things that you need to really be looking at that are actually the most important factors to get you to that end goal. And so I think that's, one of the biggest questions in life is like, what do you want and why do you want it, right? And if you can answer that question and get to that end point, then you can reverse engineer and figure out the steps to get there.
Yeah, and you can reverse engineer anything.
Yeah.
Which is, it's that, to begin with the end in mind.
Yeah. Yeah, whether it's the revenue of your company, losing weight, whatever it is, growing strength, everything can be reverse engineered. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, and that's, if you look at people who do planning, they will look like, what do you want your life to look like in 10 years? And you can really dissect it. And you can take a weekend, and it's, it takes a long time.
Yeah.
But you can say, okay, this is what I want my life to look like in 10 years. Okay.
Yeah.
And it seems like an arduous task, but you just start moving backwards. Okay, well, then what do I need to accomplish within the next 5?
Yeah.
And then, okay, to accomplish those things, what do I need to do this year?
Yeah.
And then to accomplish those things, what do I need to do in the next, 6 months? And you just work backwards. And it's basically, okay, well, now what do I need to do this week?
Yeah.
And you realize that, okay, well, if you have 6 things that you need to accomplish this week, and then the next week, and then the next week, and then the next week, and it's all focused on reaching this goal, you'll get there. You will. It might be in 10 years, it might be in 7 years, it might be in 12 years, but you'll get there. And there'll probably be changes and shifts along the way, and you'll adjust. But you can reverse engineer anything.
For sure. I remember having a conversation with you a while ago where you were talking about, like, as you get older, you start to realize that you can't do everything, and you only have so much time to do the things that you really want to do. Like if you want to learn an instrument and you want to become really good at it, or you want to do jujitsu and you want to become a black belt, right? And like, per se, let's say that you need to put in, a couple thousand hours into playing an instrument before you become really good, or you have to, how many hours and how much time it takes to become a black belt in jiu-jitsu. You start like prioritizing things and you realize how much actual free time you have and how long it's going to take to get those things accomplished. And as you get older, you just realize I can't, do everything in life, but there are some specific things that I really want to do and want to focus on. And I'm going to put that time and I'm going to put that focus on there and realize that other things are most likely just not going to happen, or I might just dabble a bit. But if I really want to be the best or be really good at these, I have to put the time and the effort and the work in, and it's going to capitalize most of that time.
Yeah. Well, that's, I think, where you learn to say no.
Yeah.
And I've been a victim of this where, somebody says, oh, let's go do this, or let's go do this, or let's go do this. And now I realize I do jujitsu. I work, right? I spend time with my wife. Luckily my daughter works for me, so I get to see her every day, which is awesome. And that's it. Like those are the things I do. And then obviously you go out and you have fun, you hang out with friends or whatever the case is. But if somebody says, oh, well, let's go play pickleball. No. Like, oh, but it's so fun. Yeah, but if I'm going to go out, I'm either going to do jujitsu or golf. You know what I mean? Like if I'm taking time to do an activity, I want it to be an activity that I'm progressing in, B, that I'm, passionate about.
Yeah.
But then, I think C, that I'm consistent in, because you can't become good in golf unless you're consistent. You can't become good in jiu-jitsu unless you're consistent. And like you said, there's only so much time in the day.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time working, obviously want to make sure that I eat dinner with my wife every night, so you start realizing, oh, my time is limited.
Yeah.
So guess what? These are the hobbies that I have, and that's it. I don't want to add new hobbies on, where I used to be that guy. Oh yeah, let's go do that. And you play a pickup game of basketball, and then you play pickleball.
There are also social times where you're just doing it for the fun of it anyways, and I'm sure you will do it. But I understand also like the fact of not wanting to waste time if you'd rather be putting it towards
like if
something else.
I'm at let's say that somebody throws like a party, like a social event.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're at the person's house and they happen to have a pickleball court. And they're like, hey, you want to play pickleball? Sure.
Yeah.
We're already there.
Yeah, but
I've
going
already
out of
committed
your
this
way.
time.
Yeah.
But if it's like, oh, I have to go out of my way to meet this person, do this.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'd be like, well, let's play golf instead.
Yeah.
Right. Because I realized that it's, and, the reason I bring up golf is because, it's if you want to be a good golfer, you have to play golf.
Yeah.
That's the way it works.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to practice.
I played when I was younger quite consistently, and I just don't want to play it because of the amount of time and effort it takes to be decent at it. And also for me, I'm not a big, huge person to commit to like 4 or 5 hours just to play a round of golf. I'd rather do something that only takes about an hour of my time versus committing it a whole day. There are not a lot of people on the planet that I like spending multiple hours with. There are some people, but sometimes you get stuck playing golf with somebody and you're like, I have 3-4 more hours with this individual. It's not the most exciting thing to do.
No, but it is, I decided it's good for business.
Yeah, for sure.
People, there are a lot of people that I interact with that like to go play golf.
Yeah, I can imagine your business is actually excellent because you spend a lot of time explaining how you're going to help them, the benefits. Right. You really get to know them and what their goals are. Hours. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you need to get to know someone for 4 to 5 hours. For me, being a lawyer, it's like I don't want to listen to somebody dump their problems on me for 4 to 5 hours unless they're paying me to do so. Sure, but like being with them consistently is not going to be conducive to what my business is. Yeah, so it's a great tool for you for sure.
It's a really good tool. And then also, you look at your balanced life. Like how do you get good at jiu-jitsu? You practice. How do you get good at golf? You practice. How do you have a good marriage? You spend time with your spouse.
Yeah.
So it's like, for me, it was the ability to just say, hey, do you want to play golf with me? So we can go to the range together. We can go and we'll go play 9 holes or something together. So I get to spend time with my wife. Yeah. And you killed 2 birds with 1 stone, which is, I look at it as it beats just like, oh, let's just go to brunch. Yeah. Like, okay, we can go to brunch. That's cool. But hey, let's go out in nature and have some, have some fun and enjoy each other's company. So it's I think that at some point, like as you get older, you learn what to say no to, what to say yes to, and you just start crafting your life.
You and I have had a lot of history where we've really we love motivational stuff. We love personal growth stuff. Right. You said you've read hundreds of books. I'm not there as an individual. I love how in this book you basically talk about how motivational people are teaching you how to be motivated and how they're trying to get you inspired, but they don't give you the specific tools to get to where you need to go. And that's essentially what you're teaching us in this book. What I want to start with is through your journal of personal growth and development, who were some of your top teachers and what were a couple of things that they taught you and people that really inspired you in your journey?
One was the professor that I worked for in graduate school. And at the time I didn't know it though, because I talk about hard work. So it was hard work. But once I got to college, I didn't work as hard. One, because I think I was out of the house and I was free and I didn't have to spend 4 hours a day doing math anymore, right? So it was like, okay, they say that a lot of times when people go into college, their first year usually isn't that great because all of a sudden they're free. That was kind of me. Yeah. And part of it was trying to figure out what, where I wanted to end up at. But college, like high school, like even graduate school, it kind of came easy to me. It wasn't that difficult. Like I didn't have to study that much. I really didn't have to put that much work in.
Just because you have a really good memory, or you just find that you understand concepts faster than everybody else, or you just did the work that most people wouldn't do?
No, it was just because academics wasn't that difficult.
Got it. So you've just always been somebody who can conceptualize and understand
pretty
things
quickly,
quicker
yes.
than others. Got
yes.
it. Okay.
But then I started realizing, because of this conversation that I had, my professor actually pulled me in, and he said, he goes, you piss me off. He goes, you annoy me. Well, this is great. This is the guy that's paying for my graduate school, right? And he said, look, he goes, when I went to graduate school, I wasn't the smartest guy, right? He goes, but I worked my ass off, and I worked really hard, and I worked for everything that I had. And then, I worked on a project, and whatever, the professor needed me to do, I did it. It was like an honor to be there. And I would work extra hours, work weekends, work nights, whatever the case is. He goes, nothing came easy to me. He goes, you are wasting your talent. He goes, everybody here is smart. He goes, just to let you know. He goes, everybody's here is smart. Everybody here is talented. He goes, but most of them, and the ones that are going to be successful, are the ones that are willing to work. And it was kind of like it took me back to I was sick of working because my whole childhood was about work.
Yeah, you got burnt out.
I got burnt out, and I thought, I'm free now. I don't have to work. But then I realized, oh no, you can never burn out. Like, that's not how it works. So it was something about that conversation where I could have been like, oh, you're just a jerk or whatever. And I realized, you know what? He's right. Like, I'm going to limit my potential. I'm going to limit what I can achieve if I don't go back, to working. And when I saw that, I saw an example of that. I had a friend of mine in high school who was ultra talented in pretty much everything he did. He was a phenomenal athlete. He was a guitarist. He taught himself how to play guitar. He didn't even know the right chords. They sounded right, but he just, but he was lazy. And so he never became a great guitar player.
Yeah.
Right? He never became a great athlete. He became kind of mediocre. It's because, again, he had all this God-given talent, but he wouldn't put the work in.
Yeah.
So that woke me up. And so that made a huge impact. Like, that conversation, this professor who was basically good enough to take me aside and say, hey, look, you're wasting your gifts. Like, you need to work. You need to put way more effort in. And so that was really impactful. So I would consider him a mentor. My martial arts instructors that I've had.
Before you get to that, it's just like listening to you tell that story reminded me of my own story, because like my mom was super, like, literally over my shoulder, would watch me do my homework pretty much my entire life until I was like completely done. And I got burnt out halfway through high school, and I think that's probably why I started to resent school a bunch, is I just started playing a bunch of video games and honestly got a bit distracted, and I lost like the motivation to work until I got back into like law school and got to the end where I realized I need to put in the work to pass the bar exam. But it's just interesting to realize how like there can be waves in your life, and if you have this huge wave of like being pushed, like you can definitely get burnt out, and it can make you stagnant for a while. And so I definitely went through a lull where I got pushed for so long. I was like class salutatorian, all the accolades, was class president multiple times, and then just like halfway through high school I just like was like, I don't have it in me anymore. I'm tired. And then I had to reinstill that fire to motivate myself to start working hard again. And for me, that just came down to like a turning point where I was like, I have to pass the bar. I can't mess around anymore. I have to focus and I have to get this done. And I kind of like built that fire back in me. And then, it's just, I guess, just reflecting on the journey, that it's interesting that you went through a similar phase too.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where, you find similarities and patterns that exist, and it's it's helpful to have conversations about it, and work through things where you can, something sparks you, like, oh, I went through that, I did that, and okay, and this is how this person worked through it. Okay, well, maybe I should rethink things, or maybe not, right? They've been successful doing it this way. I can be successful doing it this way. But I had I asked about different mentors. My martial arts instructors, one of them specifically, it's the one that I went to Israel with. Obviously very good at what he did.
Yeah.
And somebody you look up to. But he always gave really good advice, very good advice. And it was all about conquering your fears. And it was more about just, the martial arts. It was people have a fear of the unknown, and that's what causes them to, not perform. That's what causes them to not take chances. And it's, no, you need to move forward. Like, you never give up, always move forward, never give up, always move forward. And just, the lessons. And he would have us do crazy stuff. Like, we would do like miniature, like, I don't know if you ever heard of Echo Challenge. Echo Challenge is this like crazy 10-day race where you just go, they drop you off in the wilderness somewhere, and you're a team and you got to figure it out. Like, you've got a compass and a backpack and whatever. I think you forage for your own food probably.
And you did this?
No. But he had us do like miniature ones where we would do like 24 or 36 hour, physical challenges where we basically, you kind of know the landscape of this. We were at the sporting club, which is like the 24-hour fitness, the one right there on Von Carmen, that one off the freeway. We did a full-on martial arts class, like a fighting class, where it was all sparring, like on Friday night, all sparring for like, 90 minutes, 2 hours. And then basically changed and, really quickly got into, gear that we were told to bring. And we hiked all the way down to Corona del Mar.
Wow.
And then we went to Crystal Cove and then went down into the sand. And then he had a rope that he'd set up like the day before. And we all had to climb up this rope, right? And then march back. And it was crazy. Like, we ended up in Irvine Park, and then we ended up on the streets, and we had to do nutty stuff. Like, he had these, 4 guys would have to carry one guy. And then we'd like rotate around, and it was just insane to where you're broken, right? You're physically broken.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you have the mental fortitude to get through it? Because at some point you're all physically broken. So it's kind of like a miniature SEAL thing almost.
Yeah.
It was just brutal. But he would have us do stuff like that. That was like part of the martial arts. You're like, this is not what I signed up for. But then you realize, like, okay, like I'm going to do it. I'm going to get through it.
Yeah,
and
you can do hard things.
You can do hard things. And so that's really what he taught me is you can do anything you set your mind to. Like, you can do hard things, and you can just embrace the suck. It sucks. Oh, well. You can sit there and complain, or you can just go and have a good attitude while you're doing it.
Yeah, there becomes this, like, you kind of push through depression on different things because you're not second guessing yourself anymore. When you have this like huge stack of insurmountable evidence that you can do hard things, all the self-doubt and negative self-talk and all those ways that you bring yourself down just kind of wash away because you already know that you can do it and you have done it, and that this is not something that's going to stop you, and it's not something that's going to crush you. And if anything, you're going to be even more motivated because you're like, I already know I can get through this, and I'm going to keep pushing through.
Right.
And he, taught you so many lessons, and the fact that when you were a kid, now you've already done all this difficult stuff, and this is going to follow through into your adulthood and something that you're going to be able to carry with you forever. Because a lot of the stuff that we do on a daily basis, it's emotionally hard, and sometimes it can be intellectually taxing, but being able to do extremely difficult physical things translates mentally in ways that you don't realize until you're older. Because like for me, I wrestled when I was in high school, and wrestling was a very unhealthy thing, I would say.
It's brutal.
But it's brutal, yeah. The amount of working out and the amount that you're like in control of your weight, and where people are like, oh, I can't lose 2 pounds. I'm like, I can lose 9 pounds in one day.
Yeah.
Like, I will show you how to lose weight. Like, that's the least of my concerns. But going through something that's really hard, and like I've even heard with guys with like Hell Week with football, right? It's like you're building this mental resilience that can allow you to attack anything in life where you're like, okay, I need to do this project. That's not a big deal. I already did this. I'm going to be fine. I'll just figure it out as I go along.
Well, you know Dan Gable, right?
Dan Gable?
Yeah.
I don't know him very well.
Well, then you know who he is. He's one of the greatest collegiate wrestlers of all time.
Okay.
His big quote was, once you've wrestled, everything else in life is easy.
Yeah, that's right. You said this in here.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember reading that quote, and I was like, when I heard that, I'm like, it's 100% true.
Oh, yeah.
It's having that control over your body and having that control over your weight, and just the amount of like torture that you put yourself through. So the working out 7 days a week, and then you never can't be off weight when you're going to check in for your competitions. It's a whole different level of stress, and to learn that at a young age, like in high school, is very, very powerful for you.
Oh yeah, I think it's great. I mean, those are the great lessons you learn.
Yeah,
it's really important. And again, it's what builds you. It's all, you are a sum total of all these experiences.
Yeah,
you are a sum total of all the things you've gone through. And so the hope is that, people can go through these things. Like that's one of the things that the whole impetus was for the book was I did a TED Talk. And the TED Talk was about, basically, being your best self, right?
Yeah.
And it's, I didn't really quite answer the question, which is why I wanted to, write the book, because it annoyed me that I didn't really answer the, the question, but, how to become your best self. But in the talk, it was really all about you have to go through something hard.
Yeah.
In order to, rewire your brain in such a way that you can overcome challenges, you have to have overcome challenges.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's seems counterintuitive, but it's the only way to do it. So you have to go through these things where you've, had hard times, or you've had failures, where you've pushed through it.
Yeah.
And if you haven't had a life like that, it's very difficult to understand how to get past something that you've, like a new challenge that you've never faced before.
Yeah.
Right. So people, and that's that whole thing. Entitled kids who've never faced anything, once they do face something, they're like, oh my God, what's this?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Mommy and daddy aren't here to help me.
Yeah, I guess, a question that I would have and want to hear your thoughts on is like, I remember reading your story here where you talk about as a child, you wanted that BMX bike really badly, and your dad told you, I'll buy you that BMX bike if you do 500 curls with these weights. As an adult, and I understand how that could have such a huge impact, especially as who you were as a kid. And you're like, I'm going to do this, especially without knowing all the psychology and stuff that we know today. But I guess where we are today, knowing the psychology that we know, or just assuming a general adult, maybe somebody who's not dived as deep as we have into psychology, how do they put themselves, or what kind of circumstances can they look for to help them accomplish these things? Do I go look at doing a marathon? Do I go look at doing something extremely difficult? Do I join maybe martial arts or a dance class? Because I think that would be really hard for me. Like, where would you say to go to find those experiences where I can build that insurmountable evidence? Because I'm not a young, spry kid anymore, right? I can't go play sports with my friends. I mean, I still play soccer on the weekends, so maybe that's not a good example, but it's not really that competitive. It's more we're playing for fun at this age. It's not really to build myself to become the strongest, best version. So it's like, where would you recommend for people to go to build that strength?
Yeah, I think if you need it, like maybe you don't need it, right?
Yeah.
You've already done it.
Yeah.
You've done the wrestling, you've done, the things that you need to do. But for people that, I'm not saying you don't need it, but I'm just saying that, for people who,
I guess my question is for people who need it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's exactly what you said. You have to find something that's difficult, and you have to overcome it. If it's physical, great. It could be mental. It could be something as simple as, I'm going to learn a new language.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe you're not physically capable, right? Maybe you have certain limitations. Find some way to challenge yourself to where it's hard, to where it's difficult, to where you're failing. Like there are these studies that say that people who are really good at learning languages, they're very good at accepting failure. They're very good at instead of getting down on themselves, they're very good at like, okay, all right, well, I failed at that. Okay, let's come back tomorrow. Okay, let me figure this out. And then they'll get stuck on something, and then they'll finally get it. Like, oh, that's how that works. That's how the conjugation works in that language, or whatever the case is. But it's the grinding through something that's challenging, that's difficult, that's hard, where you fight through it, and it's not something that takes a day.
Yeah.
It's not like, people do, we're going to do those weekend challenges. I mean, I guess those are kind of cool.
Yeah.
And if that's what you have, then that's what you have.
Yeah.
But I think it's something like learning a skill that you're not good at.
Yeah.
Learning something that you're bad at and go do that thing and become good at it. Where I think, something like, again, jujitsu. Jiu-jitsu is phenomenal. You could do it at any age. It was one of my friends who I got to know him really well. He's a client of mine, and that's how I got to know him. And he went. So when I was a partner in a MMA studio actually, and he wanted to come check it out. and it was some professional fighters that were there, and then, some students, and we just all, did a class basically. And he was like, oh man, he goes, that's so interesting, because he did martial arts kind of his whole life, but then he had some injuries, he had some setbacks, and he got interested. He goes, oh, well, if there's, I'd love to find a way to do this. So he joined, and he started training jiu-jitsu when he was 69,
Good for him.
70, something like that.
Yeah.
And maybe 68. Anyway, I mean, he was always strong, and, he's one of those guys, like a barrel-chested guy, like a strong guy, like, but, he hadn't done something like that in years because of all his injuries that he had throughout his life. And not only did it help him physically, but just mentally, everything. The guy's a black belt now.
That's awesome.
Which is awesome. He got his black belt, I think, at like 76 or 77.
That's freaking crazy.
Which is great.
Yeah.
But it's a new challenge, and it just like,
yeah.
I mean, you can see it. Like, he's just, he loves doing it. He comes, and the guy does it like 5 days a week now.
Yeah. So it's
which is crazy.
So it seems like a big part of the journey is finding something that you're really interested in.
Right.
Something that's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
Something that's going to take time. It's going
Right.
to take effort, and through going through that is where you'll build your strength.
Yeah.
And where you're going to be able to understand that you can do hard things for a simple term, and also just like where you're going to evolve as an individual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like I thought, and beyond that, like I was thinking about this just the other day. It was like this random thought that came, into my mind, where I was like, and it's not that I don't think this at other times, but it was just like, I'm like, wow, my wife was pretty awesome when she was pregnant, right? Because my wife's Italian. She loves her wine. She loves wine. She's Italian. She loves wine, coffee, like the whole thing. And I remember when we found out that, she was pregnant with my daughter, all of a sudden she's just like, okay, what do I need to do to create the best environment for this child?
Yeah.
And she like just read stuff, and she's like, okay, you don't drink wine, you don't drink coffee, you don't do this, you don't do that, get this many hours of sleep, take a nap, like, and then, this was, I don't even know, I don't know if that many people were doing it, but she would take like a speaker and play classical music and like put it on her stomach.
Yeah.
Just anything, because she's like, I'm gonna cook the best baby ever.
Yeah.
That was her thing. And what I realized was, and then, she, obviously went through the whole thing. That was a huge sacrifice for her, because that wasn't her. She hated it. Not in that, she was proud that she was doing something, for sure. But the minute that, basically she recovered, back to wine, back to, the coffee or whatever the case is, because again, that's what she loves. But I thought about it, and I'm like, that's her difficult journey.
Yeah.
Like, she sacrificed something for another human being for 10 months out of her life, basically. And through that sacrifice, I think she learned that she can do whatever she wants to do.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that was absent in her life, because she was like an athlete and she ran track and she did all those things.
But it was just another added lesson.
It's another added lesson. So I thought about it, and I'm like, people can do things to make themselves better, and they don't have to be like, go climb a mountain. They don't have to be like, you can find that in everyday life.
It's hard for you, but genuinely
it's hard for
needs
you.
to be very hard.
That was genuinely hard for her, like legitimately hard for her. Like, and so for some people, it would have been no big deal.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I don't care. I don't need wine. I don't need this.
We're
We're
all
all different. So I think it's whatever it is, you find something that's going to challenge you, that's very difficult for you.
Yeah.
And make that part of your life.
Yeah.
Like, have difficulty in your life. I really do believe in that theory. Like, you wake up and you work out.
Yeah.
It's hard, and it sucks. And it sucks waking up early. And I tell people, because they ask me, every morning I wake up, my first thought is to go back to bed. Still, to this day, it's the worst. I wish it wasn't. Well, I mean, I always thank God for the day. That's like my ritual.
Yeah.
I always thank God for the day. But literally, it's like,
oh,
I can skip this day.
Yeah.
And I don't.
Yeah.
And it's like, luckily, I have a gym at my house, so I can just walk in and do it. I don't have, but but even when I didn't, I still did it. Do the hardest thing first.
Yeah.
Grind away at it. And I think that sets up for the day. And when you're done, you're like, okay, I did the hardest thing.
Yeah.
The rest of the day is going to be easy.
Yeah.
So it's never, don't stop doing hard things. Don't stop doing difficult things. So
For sure.
I think for people that are struggling and they need that, they need to just commit themselves to doing these difficult things.
Yeah.
And the rest of your life just gets easier.
Oh,
It just
for sure.
does.
Yeah, I can agree with you. I mean, the days where, I mean, like, I always feel better after I've worked out because I'm like, I've done the hardest thing. But I'm a nighttime workout person. I like work out usually between like 7 to 10 p.m., like just depending on my schedule.
Which is fine.
But when you said it, like getting up early in the morning, when you do it earlier and you've already worked out in the morning, you're like, I've already done the hardest thing today. Everything else is going to be easy the rest of the day. Because that was really the hardest thing that I had to do today. It's literally go and lift weights. And not saying that your job and stuff is not difficult, but like the actual going to the gym and working out is sometimes more physically exerting and it's just exhausting than the actual work you're doing throughout the day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it sucks.
Yeah.
Plain and simple, it sucks. Like, even in jiu-jitsu, I told you, like, after, at some point I have to cut this off because I have to go, every Thursday night I teach.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
That's awesome.
But one of the things, there are a lot of questions you could ask, but, one of them is pretty consistent, which is like, does it get easier?
Yeah.
I'm like, not really.
Depends on who you're fighting, I guess, right?
Well, I mean, you get better.
Yeah.
And so in one respect, it does get easier in
Yeah.
that you can manipulate other people and they don't know what you're doing to them. So in that respect, yeah, it gets really easy. But if you're going against someone at the same skill level,
Yeah.
it's not.
No, it's still constant stress.
So if you're a black belt and you're going against a black belt, it sucks.
Yeah.
Right? It just is. If you're going against someone that's equal or better than you, it sucks.
Yeah.
If you're going against someone that's not that good, well, then it's easy.
Yeah.
Clearly. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's like a pro basketball player playing against like a junior high kid.
Yeah, but not even that it sucks. It's just it's more challenging. I think sex could be a little bit of a harsh word.
No, it does. Like, put it this way. If you have someone that's really good, like I've seen it there, if you're really good at keeping top position, it's really hard to get out from under that.
Yeah.
And if someone is smothering you and suffocating you and really has good position on you, it's not pleasant. Like the air is getting pushed out of you. You have to start thinking like, okay, control yourself. I got to breathe. I'm okay. Like, no, really, you have to kind of talk yourself into not freaking out.
Yeah.
Because, it's almost a little bit claustrophobic. And there are times where it's like it's painful.
Yeah. You're going to war.
It's not pleasant.
Yeah.
War is not pleasant.
Yeah. That's
So but it's you know that you just grind through it. You get through it. It's challenging, and you feel better on the other side. But I think that's going back to your original question. It's you have to find these things that challenge yourself.
Yeah.
Challenge you, whatever it is. If it's physical, and I think physical is always good.
Yeah.
Because I think you do have to look at the different pillars of your life and think, okay, well, I need to be emotionally stimulated, so you have good friends, you have good relationships, right? You have good conversations. Okay, I need to be healthy, so you eat well,
Yeah.
right? You get enough sleep. There are certain things you need to do to take care of yourself. You do need to get some rest, right?
Yeah.
So it's like earn your rest, right? Go, oh man, I did everything I needed to do. I'm going to relax a little bit.
Yeah.
Obviously you need to read. The things that you need to do for your mind. But a big part of it is you should be physically healthy.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it.
I agree.
And strong physical health leads to strong mental health.
Yeah.
And you can perform better at your job if you have, strong physical health.
Yeah.
So I think it's all important.
Yeah, it's all part of the pyramid.
Do all those things.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
critical.
Are you a purple belt? Are you a black belt in
Oh no, I've
jiu-jitsu?
been black for a while.
You've been black for a while, yeah. And so is jiu-jitsu your favorite form of martial art, or is it just at this age this is the one that's most conducive to less injuries? Or because it sounds like when you were talking about in this book, you were doing something that seemed to be a combination of like MMA almost,
Right.
where you were punching, you were also bare knuckle, which
Right.
seems pretty intense. So like that's something that's obviously a different sport entirely than jiu-jitsu. So have you just transitioned into jiu-jitsu because it's easier to do as you get older?
Yeah, it's just the evolution of, you realize it's funny. I called this maybe a couple of years ago. It was a buddy of mine, and he very talented, like really talented. He wrestled in high school.
Yeah.
He got into MMA, and just super athlete. It's and we used to train together. And I met him when he was I don't know, he might have been 18, 19, something like that. And he probably could have been a pro, like a high level pro. But he had some injuries and he got injured, and and then like shattered his nose and like so the things where he just started realizing, it's I'm not going to do it,
Yeah.
which is fine. But then, and he's super successful in business, which is, great. He kind of took what he learned and put it into something else. Uh, but it's probably a couple of years ago, but man, we should go and just do like some kickboxing. He's like, yeah, we should. Like, let's go do it. And we started sparring, and then afterwards, we're like, it's like, because you just realize like it hurts and it's fine, but it's at a certain age, it's like getting hit in the head probably is not good for the brain.
For sure.
And you can't really go full
Yeah.
force because it's not good for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, after a point, we're like, okay, yeah, whether it's age or whatever the case is, yes, you're like, you know what? It's not like when we were younger.
No, for sure. And like,
Jiu-jitsu, you can do forever.
no, for sure. And even like Tony Robbins points out, like, it depends on what your like top values are, right? Is it like, are you trying to gain significance from the victory of the battle, or is it more important that your health is its top priority, right? And if health is a higher priority, you're probably not going to be doing things that are going to put your health at risk.
Right.
So it's just things shift as you age and as you go through it.
And jiu-jitsu becomes addicting because it is a puzzle.
Yeah.
And you can go 100%. That's the cool thing about it, is you can go 100% in jiu-jitsu where you can't in other combat arts. Because worst comes to worst, somebody just tap, and that's it. Or you just tap. And so you can really push yourself to the limit. You can be super competitive. But it's, I think the mental aspect for me is the most challenging part, because I did no-gi for a long time, which is just no gi, gi. And then I switched to gi. And it's a totally different sport.
Yeah, totally different sport.
Totally different sport. And so gi becomes, no gi becomes easier after you've done gi.
Yeah.
I have to say. But gi is a whole set of challenges, because not only are you wrestling, but people are taking your clothes and they're wrapping you up in your own clothes, or they're wrapping you up in their clothes.
They're pretzels.
Sure. And there's an infinite amount of techniques. And so it's you'll never learn them all. And you realize there's no way to master it. It's never going to happen. It's just the journey to it. But also, you start learning core principles, and you really, besides the physical challenge, it's a huge mental game.
You have to be on your toes, and you're constantly having to evolve depending on who your opponent is. And every single person is going to challenge you differently.
Right.
I've done just a little bit of jiu-jitsu. It's definitely something that I want to make it a point to do. I've been committing this last year to really healing some shoulder injuries. I have a partially torn labrum and a torn rotator cuff, and I've done stem cells now multiple times. I'm actually, the reason I asked you to move the appointment today is because they were trying to get me to go for the stem cells today, but I'm going tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Yeah, so no, it's fine. It ended up working out perfectly. But yeah, so for me, I just am committing to healing my body before I put it through a little bit more physical torture, because as you get older, just the pain of injuries is not something that's a lot of fun. I remember also reading in your book, there was this one part where you talk about getting into that flow state right before the fight started. And you remember like every moment, and you remember the emotions that were around it. And you remember just like this like peak basically experience in your life. It reminded me of the movie 300, where like he's standing there with the wolf and he goes, it wasn't a fear that gripped him, but it was a heightened sense of things. Being able to pay attention to the cold at his back and seeing the wolf as it approached him from his front. And it was just like this moment when you were describing it in the book, which was just like very much exemplifying this like pillar moment in your life. And you remember the sensations, you remember the feelings, and you see the person in front of you, and you're just completely in this flow state. And I guess for me, the reason I bring it up is I haven't had as many experiences as I would like to say that I've had in that peak flow moment. And I can't recall a lot of them, and it saddened me, I guess, because I wish that there were more flow state moments that I wish I could recall and be like, everything in my life is awake. Everything in my body is alive right now. I'm fully present in a way that it's literally instilling it, and it's like beaming this experience into my soul. And it was really amazing the way you described it. I'm having trouble finding the book right now, but I think I'm, doing words enough to explain it. But yeah, I guess I just had a little bit of jealousy, I guess, wishing that I had more of those flow state moments in my own life.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that's a critical part of life. I don't know if you've ever read the Book of Five Rings.
I was literally that's one of the quotes that I heard of Matsumoto, right? He was the Ronin. I haven't.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna pull up that part. I actually did have that one out, but you were saying, go ahead.
Well, he talks about that state. So, he doesn't call it the flow state, but there's a lot been written about it, and it's clearly what he was describing. But it's it's the highest state you can be in, and it's basically where there's no future, there's no past.
Yeah.
There are no.
Can I read the passage that you wrote? So, in the Book of Five Rings, Miyamoto Musashi describes the fifth ring void, which is where there is nothing or any form. It's a state in which we are so focused on what we are doing in the present moment that we aren't thinking of the future and we aren't thinking of the past. Our mind is clear and there are no clouds of confusion. We weren't thinking about our stresses or our plans for tomorrow. Instead, we are so focused on what we are doing in that moment that time almost stands still. Everything becomes perfectly clear and we enter a type of flow state. Many athletes refer to this as entering the zone.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's it. And so when you do something like jujitsu, because you're in a survival mode,
Yeah.
you're not thinking about anything but that moment, and you're 100% present. And the thought is that the more times you can enter that state in your life, the more full your life will be.
Yeah.
And so you have to seek those things out.
Yeah. That makes me excited just thinking about it. But I guess it's also just finding what those moments are and what they look like, and also understanding those moments shift as you age, because maybe it's not something like a physical sport as much as it might have been 10 years ago for me, right? Maybe it's finding moments that are a little bit more exhilarating in whatever it is that I am doing. I guess for somebody that's searching, I guess even advice just for me, what is like a piece of advice that you would give to try to seek and find those moments?
Well, like for you specifically, and I don't know, I guess you'll have to answer this, but I know that they'll ask me to do a lot of presentations. Like I get pulled into different professional organizations, and a lot of it is, can you do an economic talk, like economic forecast or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And, whenever you do public speaking, I'm going to argue, at least for myself, that I'm in that state.
Yeah.
Because you get that same feeling. It's a feeling of excitement, right? Where you're like, okay. And for me, I know that I go through a very certain process where I always know my material. I always know what I'm going to be talking about. But as I near the presentation, my mind goes completely blank.
Yeah.
Like I literally know nothing. Like if you, and so it was so many years ago, like when I did TV,
Yeah.
when that happened, there was like a little bit of a panic.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah.
But I realized that's my process. It's almost like the mind clearing itself of all the noise.
Yeah.
And so I go in and once you start, it's almost, you're in complete flow.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're watching yourself doing it. Like you're always observing. You're like the observer. It's really interesting. But you're not thinking about anything. No present, no past, no anything. It's that moment, especially when it's a topic you really understand. So like for you, public speaking, do that.
Sure. I mean, when you describe that in the moment, I mean, like there's definitely been a couple times in my life where I've given speeches, and I remember my mind going blank the same way too. But if you prepared and you know what you're going to discuss, doesn't matter. You will just naturally, the words will find themselves and they will grow out. And yeah, I guess as you were describing public speaking, I think of like 3 specific instances that do almost come out as that flow state, where I can remember literally the people I was looking at while I was giving that speech, and the people that were resonating, or the people that might have been annoying me from, the way that they weren't properly looking back at me. Like we're almost seeing those exact seconds. So yeah, for me, I guess it probably is. I've been that.
That's why people do Toastmasters and things like that. But that's organization still around, where it's, you just go and you do things, like that, or, dance lessons, I'm thinking about that. Like that's, and my daughter's getting married and it's going to be like a year and a half engagement or something, because her fiance's in law school. But I'm thinking, I don't want to be that awkward dad. So should probably take some dance lessons. And I'm thinking that that's going to be good for me because it's, one, time spent with my wife, but then the other is, okay, this is something that I think at the moment I'm probably not good at.
Yeah.
And fighting through that, doing something that's challenging, doing something that's different, doing something that I have to kind of fail at until I get it. But I would guess at some point you get through it. And, as silly as it is, if you get really good at it, you're flowing, right? So you can find it in extremes. You can find it in simple things. But ultimately, I think that if you're really going to say, look, I want to commit myself to rewiring the way that I think and work at the optimal level and perform at the optimal level, I think you really need to do something that puts you in that state as often as possible, and something that's physical, something like jujitsu, something that it forces you to be present.
Yeah.
And then when you do that, everything else just comes together.
For any of you looking to check out this book called Streaking to Win, I know that they can find it on streakingtowin.com. Is that the website, right?
Streakingtowinthebook.com or just Amazon.
Got it. And I know I've got this one off Amazon. This book was amazing. I loved hearing your story and how you ended up getting to where you are, and also just kind of reigniting some of the things that I knew about myself and how to find that grit, and also how to figure out ways to accomplish my goals by creating these streaks. And so I really appreciate the way that you detailed all this in here. I guess the way that I would like to end this podcast is, what is one final thing you would like to leave as a piece of advice, or just a thought, or some of the guests to reflect on? Just one major thing in your life that's helped you in any way.
Love yourself enough to want to be better, right? Give yourself permission to be better, to strive for things. And I think there are a lot of people that aren't in that space. They're not in that state.
Yeah, it's like what you were talking about earlier, where it's like when you say no to others, so you can say yes to the things that are for you. Gabor Mate was talking about how like anger is just an expression of a boundary. It's just, there's nothing wrong with anger itself, but it's just, no, I say no to this, whether it's a physical or an emotional thing. But really what you're doing is you're saying yes to yourself. And so understanding that, part of the journey is just creating boundaries so you can say yes to the things that make you happy and the things that motivate you.
Yeah, and if you can become your best self, and if you can challenge yourself to become the best version of yourself, then also that impacts everybody around you.
Yeah.
Right? If you can be the best parent, it's going to impact your kids. If you can be the best husband, it's going to impact your wife. So you have to put that work in.
100%.
I know, but you just have to do it.
Yeah. And for lack of a better term, be a little bit more selfish. Just take care of yourself. And I think that word has a negative connotation when it doesn't need to at all. Just take care of yourself. And the more you take care of yourself and you improve yourself and become the best version of yourself, you're going to improve everybody around you and also give them permission to do the same.
Well, it's funny because one of my good friends, that's one of the things that we always say to each other: stay selfish. Stay selfish is selfish. And it's already came from that conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. It shouldn't be negative.
No.
Because it means you are taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
Which means that you can be the best for others.
Yeah. That's amazing. All right. Let's end on that note. For all of you out there listening, stay selfish and keep it up that way. And Andre, thank you so much for taking the time. I know we're busy. I hope your class goes really well. And that's going to be it for today.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.